Hello, good morning, love wrestling. It is Thursday, it is 9 a.m., and that means we are here for another edition of Firmly Inc. right here on Love Wrestling. It was supposed to be a three-way dance this morning with, as you can see, my guest here, Doc Mueller, Chris Mueller, Drew, and myself, but Drew woke up not feeling great this morning, so we are with our traditional two-man show. We just have our pal, Doc, Chris Mueller, filling in for Drew. So thank you for being here and ending up being my co-host, not just our guest this morning. Chris, how you doing today, man?
Well, it's 8 a.m. and I'm eating breakfast, so.
There you go.
8 a.m. for me anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, 9 a.m. for me. I scarfed down my breakfast real quick before I popped in here, but I got my coffee alongside, and we are ready to go. Obviously, we got a big week this weekend. We have Backlash on Saturday evening taking place from St. Louis, Missouri. So we will be doing a Backlash preview here in just a short few minutes to start the show, and we'll lump in everything that happened on Raw and SmackDown involving the people in the matches, and then kind of hit everything else that happened on Raw, because I thought Raw was a strong one this week. And then we'll talk a little bit of AEW and Dynamite from last night, which I thought was also a really good show last night. And we'll kind of go from there. So, yeah, we're going to dive right in. We're not going to take any extra time because we do have Backlash Saturday night. St. Louis, Missouri. We have 5 matches booked for the show. I thought, and we got Sandy, we got Fernando, Bluey in the chat. Hello, how we doing, guys? Welcome in as we get situated and started here. Going to dive in and talk about Backlash here in a moment. But before we dive into Backlash, the last couple weeks, things have gotten hot and heavy on the WWE side. They've really been pushing some good storylines. And one of them that, at least for me, I thought was going to end up being on this show on Saturday. It was looking like they were going to do Jey Uso versus Logan Paul for the World Heavyweight title. I was expecting that match to be added to Backlash. However, we got a surprise, and I want to talk about this on Raw because obviously this has anything to do with the pay-per-view as of this moment. But, Raw opened up with Jey Uso, and he was about to call out Logan Paul. And a different Paul comes out, not Logan Paul, but one Paul Heyman came out to interrupt Jey. And Paul Heyman cut one of his, he always cuts great promos, but he cut one of his best promos, I think, in a long while, where he's kind of running back through all the bloodline stuff and, Roman leaving and, losing the title and then leaving him with Solo. And, he's kind of saying, everyone blames me. I'm always the one that gets blamed. But this time I was right. I was right this time. And he looks at Jey and he goes, and you're blaming me? Like, screw you, buddy. And he was very fiery, yelling the whole time, but it was in a good way. It was a really, really great promo. And he ended up squeezing a world title match with Seth Rollins that was going to happen as the main event of Monday Night Raw. So that opening segment happens. Paul Heyman is excellent in that segment. And then we end up getting a world heavyweight title match in the main event of the show. And this match to main event the show was very good. It was Jey Uso's best wrestling match of the year, probably, I think. It was a tremendous main event. I thought Seth Rollins was actually going to win this title like 3 or 4 times during this match. I was like, are they really doing this? They're really going to take this title off Jey right now? Just like that? Because that's how it made me feel. Like he's kicking out of the, at one point, Jey Uso hits a super kick followed by a spear and then a splash. And it's like, okay, Jay's going to win. Sammy had come out at that time. Braun was at ringside. There was already a bunch of BS happening. And Seth kicks out. And I'm sitting here going like, holy crap, they're actually going to have Seth win this thing. And then it looks like Seth is going to win it. There's a ref bump. Braun Breaker spears Sami Zayn, who's on the outside. He spears Jey Uso. That leads to a stomp in the ring, and it's like, this is over. There's no way Jey is kicking out of this one. And then we hear CM Punk's music. And CM Punk runs down. He has a chair. He takes out Braun Breaker on the way to the ring, and he just starts wailing Seth Rollins with a chair. The ref didn't even ring the bell. The match just ended. And then CM Punk hits both Braun and Seth with a couple chair shots, and Sami Zayn, CM Punk in a lay down, kind of out Jey Uso. The baby faces stand tall in the ring to end Monday. So I did want to talk about that right off the jump with you, because obviously Jey is not wrestling on the pay-per-view Saturday. So just talk to me about that whole sequence, the opening segment with Paul and Heyman's promo, and then that main event where that was just, it felt like they had been listening to the fans for a couple of weeks, where we've been kind of like, this isn't great. And they were like, all right, well, enjoy this. Enjoy this. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, Heyman did an excellent job in that promo. He's always good at the whole getting fired up and twisting words to make it fit his narrative. But in this instance, he is right. Like, he did get kind of screwed by Roman. Mm-hmm. Punk was using him as a tool, not actually, like, he didn't really even want Heyman's help. He was doing it to get under Reigns' skin.
Yep.
So, like, I'm kind of on Heyman's side here. Like,
yeah, 100%.
It's sort of like how people are like, Hangman did nothing wrong. It's like Heyman did nothing wrong.
Yeah, I fully agree. I think he 100% is right. Just like you said, like, yeah, everything that he said in that promo, there weren't, and Fernando says it in the chat, Heyman told no lies. He did not. He did not.
No, and that's what makes the most compelling villains, right? Is the ones who firmly believe in their position and have evidence to back it up. Like,
yeah,
it's definitely picked up a little bit. Rollins is doing some great work. All the stuff with him and Sami Zayn I've really enjoyed.
Yep.
Like, because Sami Zayn's friendship with Kevin Owens has been on display a million times, but we forget this dude's friends with a lot of people. He's been in the business a long time. Him and Rollins do have a history together, so I like what they've been doing with this. I was surprised, but then again, we still have SmackDown coming up. I mean, they could always add something to the card if they really wanted to.
Yeah, and I think it was good, and we got Zach and our wrestling junkies popping in the chat. Welcome in, guys. I think it was a good thing, though, because obviously you have this new faction that they're building, right? You have Seth, Braun, and Heyman. They're super over. It's only been a few weeks since Mania when this kind of came to fruition, so I thought it was good to kind of have this match with Seth going after the world title, because I think they kind of got ahead of it, because you could run into this situation where you have this dominant faction on Raw with 2 over guys and Heyman 3 over guys, really. But like, and they're getting good responses, even though they're bad guys, the crowd's cheering for them. And you could run into this thing where it's like, okay, well, Jay's the world champion, but Seth is really the dominant figure on Raw with this faction. How come Seth isn't the world champion or going for the world championship? So I feel like having this match the way they did it so early on kind of gets that out of the way for a little bit, because I do think Seth will be the one that beats Jey for that title.
It's a very high possibility.
Yeah. So, but now I think they did it. They had the match. It got thrown out because of a bunch of chaos at the end. And now you can go back to the Sammy and Seth stuff, and you still have the unresolved CM Punk stuff with Seth and Heyman and all that fun stuff too. So they kind of did it in a way where we had this world title match, Seth going after it. Jey, I mean, he didn't win the match. So, we can discuss how it made Jey look at all. Cause this wasn't a, Jey had this match won and all hell broke loose. This was Jey was going to lose.
Mm-hmm.
Jey was going to lose. So I understand why people could have opinions about how they made Jey look there, because he is the champion still. And then even after this, he's celebrating with the fans. They did this very well where Raw was already off the air, and they had fan footage and, WWE camera footage of Jey kind of fist bumping and yeeting with the fans going across ringside. And then he gets to kind of the corner as you take the turn towards the announce table. And all of a sudden you just see a guy in a hoodie out of nowhere come with a right hand and knock Jey unconscious. I thought it was really well done. I like how they're continuing to kind of do different type of stuff and doing like after show things and different angles, kind of getting that fan interest involved. So clearly the Logan Paul Jey Uso thing, we are still on track for. It's just, as of this moment, doesn't look like it's going to be happening on Saturday with everything that's going on. But yeah, how did you feel about it? Was a great match. I would say it was easily Jey's best match of the year so far, with Seth on Monday night. How did you feel it made Jey look? Because Jey was losing. If he doesn't get bailed out by CM Punk, first Sammy, but then CM Punk, Seth Rollins is the world heavyweight champion. So, how are we feeling about how that made Jey look coming out of that?
Jey being positioned as like somewhat of an underdog doesn't bother me, because in a lot of ways he is. He's not the guy that should be in this position. He's the tag team wrestler with a twin brother. Pro wrestling history tells you that those people don't become world champions. So for him to get this far is pretty unprecedented, and continuing to feature him as somebody who's like just barely scraping by, it makes sense to me. So I don't have a problem with it. The thing I have a problem with is just I have to continue seeing Logan Paul.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, if it's not on WWE programming, I have to see the stupid Paul Brother show commercials during AEW's shows.
It's fair. Look, everyone knows how I feel about the guy on a personal level and how I think of what kind of person he is. I actually do think he's kind of a perfect opponent for Jey. He's a guy that everybody hates.
As long as he loses.
He will. I think he will. Look, he is going to win that world title at some point, and everybody needs to prepare themselves for it, because it will happen. But I think he's going to lose to Jey. But I actually think he's kind of a perfect opponent for Jey, because he's a guy that everybody doesn't like. He's a guy that everybody is going to want to see Jey Uso beat. And I think that's what Jey Uso's still over as hell. But I think Jey Uso having an opponent like that, where everybody's going to be like, we don't want this guy to win. So Jey, we're all behind you. I actually think that's a good opponent for Jey. So again,
like, even Jey's enemies should want Jey to win.
That's what I'm saying. Right. And like, I feel like that's what this is, because you have the other wrestlers, no matter whether they're babyface, when it's come to Logan Paul, especially more recently, you have those other wrestlers in the back, the Karrion Crosses, the other wrestlers that it doesn't really matter if they're babyface or heel. They'll all saying, hey, don't let this YouTuber come and take over our shit. Like, this is what we do, not what he does. And I feel like that's kind of something that Jey kind of fits what Jey kind of needs.
I know they won't do this, but what I wish they would do is have the wrestlers be like, we don't want him to win the title because he's a terrible person and he sucks and we don't want him here. Like, reality of the situation.
For sure. And then we got Wrestling Junkies in the chat bringing up a couple good points. He's saying Uso versus Paul is very much a social media title match. Everyone hates Logan online, and Jey is over as hell with the majority of online audiences. They'll both have some fun viral entrances on top of it. And then he says something about he thinks He goes, wild prediction, but he thinks Sammy helps Rollins win the title at SummerSlam. Then there's an alliance between Sammy and Rollins, and then they set up a split, and then the Rumble in Saudi. Look, I've been saying, I thought the promo that Sammy cut with Seth, not this past Monday, but last Monday, I thought that was the official start. I think, again, this is fantasy long-term booking, and who the hell knows what happens by the time we get there. But I think that the fact that Sammy was very much like, I will win a world championship, and he was saying it to Seth, looking in Seth's eyes, I think that is the foreshadowing of maybe next year's Mania, one of the title matches being Seth versus Sammy for the title.
I would love that.
The Rumble is in Saudi. I've been saying even longer than this that I think Sammy should win that Royal Rumble in Saudi. I think that would be a special moment for everybody, but especially for him. And then you can build to Sammy versus Seth, with Seth being the heel champion and Sammy getting that moment. I think that's what they set up with that promo that they had in the ring a couple weeks ago. That's what I was thinking in that moment, was this could start the build, almost a year build, to Sammy and Seth for the title at Mania next year, and it would be wonderful. It would be wonderful.
I'm just tired of long builds like that, to be honest.
I know.
With you.
Triple H loves them, though.
I know, but like
Triple H loves them.
It's like we even got some of that before it was Triple H running the show. Like,
it's true. Yeah, it's true.
The Rock and Cena had a year-long build to their big match. Remember that?
Yeah, I do.
And then they had another match.
Yeah, I know. Twice in a lifetime. And now they're friggin' on the same team, even though we don't see one of them at all. But now they're aligned. Who would have thought?
It's also I do have to point out that it's very funny to me that in this instance, The Rock is sort of Cena's boss.
Yeah.
But one of the things that The Rock really, really wanted was to firmly establish a character in the DC universe. And it flopped. And now Cena is one of the more popular DC characters, with Peacemaker being such a hit. I just find it very funny that the two of them have almost switched places, where now The Rock is back in pro wrestling and Cena's the one working for DC Comics and doing stuff. It's just, I don't know. It's funny to me.
It is. Have you seen Peacemaker?
Oh, I love that show.
Oh,
yeah.
It's so good. It's so good.
I can't wait for a season 2.
Oh my God. I'm so ready for it. If you haven't watched it, watch it. It is, if you know nothing about it, you will be shocked, but pleasantly surprised.
Best opening credits of any TV show, like, easily, ever.
Yeah, it's up there. It's up there. It's a tremendous show. All right, let's dive into some Backlash. We will talk about that John Cena fella in a little bit here, but right now we have 5 matches booked for the show. Saturday evening, St. Louis, Missouri. Yes, Sunday Center. Drew does look like a lot of bacon and eggs this week. Yes, Drew is under the weather. Originally, Doc was supposed to be the third joining us for the show today, but now Doc has moved over to the number 2 chair, and he is my co-host for the day. All right. Oddly enough, and we were talking about it a few minutes before we went live, Backlash is very Raw storyline heavy. There's 5 matches. Technically, there's 2 matches for SmackDown, but obviously with Cena, it doesn't really, to me at least, it doesn't feel like that's a full-on SmackDown match with the Cena-Orton situation, just because Cena's been on SmackDown like twice since he's come back and stuff. But technically, there are 3 Raw matches and 2 SmackDown matches. So the newest match that was actually added on Monday night during Raw. And that is, it will be a singles match for the WWE Intercontinental Championship. It'll be the champion, Dirty Dominic Mysterio, taking on his challenger, Penta. We've seen Penta kind of getting involved with the Judgment Day. On Raw, he had a very good match with JD McDonough, who had returned the week prior, and got involved in a match with Penta that cost Penta that match. So we see them have a one-on-one match, which was a lot of fun. Penta obviously got the win at the end of that match. And then that sets up Penta going after the IC title with Dom on Saturday. I did like Dom. They had a couple backstage things on Monday with Judgment Day, but I did like Dom kind of complaining and being like, man, I knew being a champion was going to be hard, but I didn't know it was going to be this hard. This is some bullshit. And Finn Balor kind of being like, hey, cut the shit. You want to be a champ? Be a champ. I thought it was a lot of fun, but I'll let you kind of lead with where your head's at with this. Like, I'm expecting this to be a good match between the two. They've been building up to the one-on-one for the title here for a little bit. But do you think this is the time? Do they make a switch? I know, I don't think Dom needs a friggin' 6 or 8 month title reign here or anything like that. But do you see Penta taking the belt from Dom here on Saturday? Do we think it happens this quickly? Because obviously Penta is still as over as you can be.
I don't think it happens this quickly. I think Dom will retain. For some reason, even though I wouldn't be opposed to a singles title being the first thing he does, I do feel like the first title Penta and Ray will hold are the tag titles.
I agree.
Frankly, I'm shocked that WWE has not even tried to hide the fact that they're a team, but has yet to put them anywhere together.
I know. Well, for the first time, so obviously this stuff was going on with Penta, but then Penta had a backstage thing with Chad Gable. And Penta actually, he at least said the name Lucha Brothers. So the name was at least said aloud. But I agree with you. I don't think it was a bad idea because obviously Penta was around well before Ray got there. We all know the reasons why and stuff like that. We don't have to rehash all that stuff. But I thought once kind of Penta was there for a little bit and he got established and he got so over as he was, I didn't think it was a bad idea for them to separate them at first, just to kind of let them both let Ray get a little bit over as a solo guy over here on SmackDown. Penta's already over, and then we bring them together. But I could see them getting together now sooner than later, especially now that they've mentioned the name. Penta seems to have a bunch of people kind of up in his shit. He's dealing with the Judgment Day. Now he's dealing with Gable and Grande Americano and American. So he needs allies. And what better ally to get than your brother, who also is one half of one of the best tag teams in the world with you.
And just fought Gable.
Yeah, and just fought, at WrestleMania, fought Grande Americano and that whole thing. He's dealing with the same people, kind of. So I think it just makes sense. I think we're seeing the Lucha Brothers sooner than later. Like, I would say by the absolute late, they're going to have I have a feeling they're going to have a big match at SummerSlam at the latest with the Lucha Bros. I wouldn't be shocked if the Lucha Bros are fighting the New Day for the titles by the time we get to SummerSlam. That's where I feel like it's coming. I feel like it's coming sooner than later.
And frankly, I wouldn't even be shocked if it happened as early as this weekend, where like Penta loses and then he's getting beaten down by the whole Judgment Day, and then Ray comes out. Like, I could totally see them doing that.
100%. We have Fernando in the chat that says he thinks Finn is going to cost Dom the IC title this Saturday. I don't know if he would cost him because I think Finn wants that title. So it's not, you know what I mean? Like, I could see that happening because Finn is kind of playing it off like he's not upset, but we all know deep down that he's ready to blow a gasket, So I can understand why he might want to cost him, but I feel like at first is Finn going to be the one that gets kicked out here and like Finn becomes the babyface out of this? Is that where you think they're going here when it comes to this? Or do you think, right?
It's so tough to say because so many fans have come around on Dom.
Yeah.
And it all depends on what they want to do with Dom and Liv and whether they want Liv and by proximity Raquel to be heel or babyface too. Because in my opinion, the two of them both work better as heels.
I agree.
Morgan can be a good babyface on her own, but I don't think her and Raquel would be a good babyface tag team.
I would agree there.
So, yeah, it's so hard to say what the end game is here because both options make sense. Like, the crowd does love Finn and would totally cheer a babyface turn, but if you book it right, like, and this is coming from one of like Dominic Mysterio's biggest critics, but if you book it right, he could be a decent mid-card babyface for them.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I think Fernando says the fans are too behind Dom to stay heel. I think they're getting there.
Like, they like Dom as a heel, and that's why they like him. what is babyface Dom?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, he was so boring when it was him and Ray together.
Mm-hmm.
And I know he's grown a lot since then, and we're not going to get that same thing. But, like, that is the problem with heels becoming popular and you change them. Like, unless you're Stone Cold or Randy Orton, you usually undergo a big personality shift when you make a heel or face change.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I feel like Dom is one of those people that shouldn't. I feel like Dominic.
Like, I
feel
don't
like,
want to cheer for the guy with that mustache and that mullet.
yeah,
Like,
but
that guy should be a heel who's entertaining, not a baby face.
I don't disagree. I do think if they were to turn Dom, it would have to be an Eddie Guerrero style babyface to me. And I
Where
know
he's
there's
in the
obviously
booth
a
and all
lot.
that, yeah.
Yeah, like I know there's a lot of comps with Eddie and Dom and Ray. You know, I get it, and I'm not just doing that but that's who he would have to be. He would have, because Eddie Guerrero was one of the more over baby faces, but he was still lying and cheating to win, and he was still doing sleazy shit. He just did it in such a way, and he was so charismatic, and that we just loved it. We ate it up, and I feel like that would have to be the route that they would go on with Dom, because I do think you're right. I do think that the fans like chanting for and cheering for Dom as a heel, because he is that like smart ass, terrible mullet, terrible mustache, sleazy heel. So I think they would have to kind of lean that route and kind of go the Eddie Guerrero route with him. Because him being like a regular good old baby face, I don't think works. I don't think would work.
Nope.
Morning, Scott. Welcome in, my man. How we doing, brother? Hope you are well. All right. So I also have Dominic Mysterio retaining in this one as well. I do think I think the way you put it with Judgment Day getting involved, I could see this as being what ends up with us seeing Penta and Rey Fenix in the ring together. And I do agree. I think it could happen as early as Saturday after the match, or if there's some bullshit where it ends up being 3 or 4 on 1 and Penta's kind of trying to stay alive in the match and Rey Fenix makes his way out and he's like, no, I'm going to even the odds here.
So, question for you. Who do you think is the better theme, Penta or Phoenix?
I like Penta's, especially when they added that new guitar.
The guy from Tool.
The guy from Tool. I thought that was like a good little touch to the music this week. I actually don't mind, as far as like the new musics of the wrestlers go. I actually think that Ray and Penta's are two of the better ones.
I agree, but I think Ray's sounds slightly more generic, whereas I recognize Penta's as soon as it begins.
Exactly. Penta has that opening little, guitar feedback noise there, and so it's very distinctive.
If they do team up, they should just use Penta's theme as their
theme.
I
would agree.
Especially since you can be like, oh, we got this famous guitarist on it. Like,
you just change the video to a Lucha Bros video and show both of them, and they roll with that music. And I think that would be the way to go. Yeah. Oh, we got Drew in the chat saying, thank you, Doc, for stepping in and filling in for him. And he's sending love to both of us as he's healing up this morning. We hope you're feeling a little bit better, Drew. Get your rest. And obviously we'll see you back here with me next week, hopefully. So thanks for popping in, man. Hope you're doing okay over there. Never fun being sick. No,
I just got over having a kidney stone. That was
God, those aren't fun either.
No, that was an interesting night in the emergency room.
Yeah, I bet. All right. You hopped on a show with us like the day after.
Probably. I
think you did. You were with me. And
I was probably still pretty hopped up on painkillers.
Yeah, I think we were doing a WrestleMania preview or WrestleMania review or something like that. But I thought, you popped on like the next morning and you were like, I spent all yesterday and evening. And we were like, God damn, man, warrior over here. But all right. We have this match was just added last Friday on SmackDown. How they got to this match is kind of out of, a little bit of nonsense, but I do think that this match will be a show stealer. It is a fatal 4-way for the WWE United States Championship. It is Jacob Fatu defending against LA Knight, Damian Priest, and Drew McIntyre. So basically what they did here is they said, okay, you two fought at WrestleMania and you two fought at WrestleMania. So now all 4 of you are just going to fight. That's how we're going to do here. You guys are feuding. Now you're all going to be feuding. with that being said, I like all these guys. LA Knight and Damian Priest had a hell of a match last Friday on SmackDown. That was a really good match that they had. Again, this is another one of these scenarios where it's a fatal four-way. Anything can happen. No disqualification. The champion doesn't need to be involved in the outcome. However, I think it is way too soon to take that title off of Jacob Fatu. I expect this match to be fun, chaotic, violent, but I expect Jacob Fatu to retain because he just won the damn thing, and I don't think they're going to take it off him anytime soon. It'll really be what happens in the match that allows him to get that victory, because obviously going into it, I would think that Drew McIntyre might be the favorite to win, but I just can't see Jacob Fatu losing this belt this early, Doc.
No, me neither. And he is so over too that it would be dumb for them to consider it. And it's funny how they put this together, where you're right. It is like, we're just going to take 2 WrestleMania matches and mash them up. But it feels like a stopgap. It feels like we are getting one more Priest McIntyre singles match to me.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then on top of that, I could see LA Knight and Jacob still running it back one more time, but I don't see LA Knight picking it up. I mean, the ending of this is probably going to just be Drew and Damian fight each other to the backstage area after a little while, and then Fatu just moonsaults Knight into the mat.
Yeah, I think that's probably the way to do it. We do have the Saturday night's main event coming up in just a couple weeks after this. I think it's 2 weeks after, the 24th. So, the matches that we thought might have, like, I could see Jey Uso and Logan Paul being a Saturday night's main event match for the title. I could see that one last blow off with Drew versus Priest and so I know they had a street fight at Mania. Maybe they have a steel cage match or last man standing or some whatever kind of last blow off between them two added to that show too. So I do think you're right that we'll see other storylines happening. I do think the guy that looks like he would be standing out to get the pinfall, like to get pinned in this, would be LA Knight. But yeah, I think that's the route that they probably go, because Jacob Fatu is so over. Do you think we see maybe Solo get involved in this match, as Solo and Jacob are still on the same side, but it's been a little bit now where they haven't really been seeing eye to eye?
Yeah, it felt like once Jacob lost faith in Solo, he never got it back. And then Tama never really talks, so who knows what that guy's thought process is. And now he's injured, so...
I was going to say, he's been out a little bit. So.
Tonga Loa,
can't catch a break.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting to see when they finally pull the trigger with Solo and Jacob, because...
Yeah.
It's so funny how Solo's booking has changed. Like, as he got to be a bigger star, he also became more beatable and less of this, like, monster. Like, there was a time in the Bloodline where it looked like Reigns was even afraid of him.
Yeah.
And now Jacob Fatu is looking at him dead in the eye and, like, does not care one bit what Solo says. It's just very funny to see how his star rose, but his mystique dropped at the same time.
Yeah, it's almost weird. It's almost like once and I don't think he's a bad promo. I really don't think Solo is a bad promo
funny.
by any means. Yeah,
I
think he's very
funny.
Yeah, and I think going forward, leaning into that more will actually work for him. But it is crazy. It almost felt like once he started talking more and really taking that lead, his mystique, because you are right. There were times where he would do something and Roman would look at him like, oh shit, I didn't even know he was going to do that. And Roman would be nervous or like, holy crap, should I be worried about this guy? And I think that was like, holy shit, if Roman is kind of nervous or scared of Solo, maybe everyone should be nervous and scared of Solo. And then Jacob Fatu showed up, and Jacob Fatu immediately looked like everything that Solo should have been.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it just was immediate, like, wow, this guy is different from everybody else. He automatically looks like he's the best guy immediately. And it was just like, and they're just rolling with it. So,
and it's crazy to me. Like, I may not like the guy a lot, but that they released Braun Strowman after him and Fatu did all that stuff that the fans loved.
Yeah.
I know they're talking about, oh, it's a price thing, and he was on a high dollar contract, but like, I don't know, man. That was a decision that genuinely shocked me.
Yeah, I also think that he's one of those guys that I could see coming back as well again. Like if they were like, hey, we're going to release you just because this is what the price is, and we're not going to do that, but we would like to bring you back at a more favorable, if you are willing to, I could see Braun being a guy that comes back again. He just strikes me as that type of guy.
I'd laugh so hard if he ended up in AEW, because he is the most WWE guy. Like he was literally like trained there.
Yeah.
He's the gigantic size that WWE likes. It would just be very funny to me if he went over to AEW. But he'd probably end up like Miro. I
was going to say, he would be very out of place there, but it would be funny. It would be funny. All right. Now we have ourselves a singles match between the Ring General, Gunther, and Pat McAfee. I will say this promo segment that they had on Raw was excellent. I know people feel a certain way about Pat McAfee, and that's fine. And when this match was started, I was like, this is the best we have for Gunther. But in the last couple weeks, they've sold me a ticket. They've sold me a ticket a little bit. I thought both guys were excellent in this promo on Monday, but I thought McAfee was really good. They have a face-to-face in the ring. Adam Pearce is there. He's like, we're not getting physical tonight, guys. We're going to keep this professional. I like Pat. I almost feel like this storyline is really just getting Michael Cole his flowers, it feels like. And I like Pat kind of being like, Michael Cole's the greatest of all time. You're a big guy. You're upset. He's doing his job. You're picking on a little guy, and I'm not going to let you pick on the little guy. Like, yeah, maybe I'll get my ass kicked, and you're a bigger guy than me, but you know what? Somebody's got to stand up for Michael Cole, and when you put your hands on him, it's going to be me. I think that's a good route for them to go. Obviously he does the stuff where he puts over in Omaha, Nebraska, where they were for Raw, and everybody's behind him and stuff like that. But he talks about how him and Gunther had a lot in common. They've grown up with the same dream, wanting to wrestle and all that stuff. He says, Gunther, you've said that since you've been on the main roster, you've been a champion for 80% of the time here. He goes, this isn't a dream for you anymore. It's a job. And he goes, and like, you're getting this upset about things that we're saying at the table. He goes, what it looks like to me is that this version of Gunther is a little soft. And you could see the facial expression and just the everything changed once he said that for Gunther. And then this part of the promo with Gunther was just, he goes, hey, did you enjoy your little girl's birthday last week? And you can see McAfee be like, okay. And he goes, 2 years old, right? Special day for you. Special day for you. I'm sure it was. And he goes, well, Saturday is going to be a very special day for me. He goes, it's my first match since WrestleMania. I'm sharp. I'm prepared. I'm more focused than ever. He said, you don't have to worry about me overlooking you or underestimating you. I promise that you have my full and undivided attention. And he goes, and when that bell rings, I'm going to maul you. And he goes, I'm going to break you in half. And the line that he said, which was wonderful, he said, tonight, by my grace, you are untouchable. He said, but on Saturday, only the grace of God will be able to lift my arms off of your throat. And he threw the mic at him. And he just left. And McAfee looked like he shit himself. It was great.
I don't dislike McAfee as much as some people.
I'm with you. I don't either.
So I'm here for it.
Yeah.
Here's what I will say. He's not a pro wrestler. He's a celebrity wrestler. Mm-hmm. The couple of matches he's had in the past, he's done well, especially the Adam Cole one. But we can also credit Adam Cole with a lot of that.
Yes, we can.
But this is Gunther. Gunther is just as capable of carrying somebody in a match as Adam Cole is.
Mm-hmm.
So I think what we're going to see here is Pat's going to surprise Gunther with a couple of moves,
Yep.
but he's never going to have a chance of winning. Like, this is probably designed to just give Gunther a really dominant victory in the end. And McAfee's going to sell the hell out of it, I'm sure.
I agree. We got a couple people. Johnny, welcome in, man. Good to see you as always. Tight spot. How we doing? Yeah, we got to, Fernando says this has to be a squash. I don't think, listen, it's not going to, at the end of the day, I think it's going to be a relatively easy victory for Gunther. I don't think it's going to be a squash. McAfee, it's going to be competitive for the first, 3, 4, 5 minutes, maybe. I think McAfee, like you said, will surprise Gunther. I don't think Gunther's going to take him lightly, like he said in the promo, but I do think that McAfee will surprise him a little bit. He'll get some stuff in. And then I think that Gunther then will take control a few minutes into the match, and McAfee won't have much of a chance after that. I don't know if McAfee is leaving for a little bit. I know it's a little too early for the college game day stuff, but I don't know if he's taking some time off or he'll have a few weeks off if Gunther really does destroy him to end this, which I think he could. But I think that's what it is. I think this is a quicker match, but I think it's a competitive one for the first few minutes. McAfee maybe gets the best of him a few times and surprises him, like you said, Chris. And then Gunther gets a hold of him and he doesn't look back, and he really just kind of emphatically beats Pat McAfee, as he should. He's been one of the most dominant guys in the whole company for the last 5 years. He absolutely should destroy Pat McAfee. I just don't think it's going to be a squash match like people think. I think that McAfee's going to get some shit in to start, and then I think Gunther will end him rather quickly after that.
It'll probably be one of those things where the bell rings and then Gunther takes off his jacket and turns around and McAfee jumps him and tries to get an early lead. That's where we'll see him get some stuff in. And there's one thing I wish WWE would do. I wish they would have McAfee portrayed as having one dangerous thing, which is his kick. The dude was a professional kicker. A running kick to the ribs while somebody is bent over or something, that'll put you down.
Yeah.
So
100%.
They should give him something that could potentially break through Gunther's armor. But right now, WWE has made no effort of that. So, So for right now, yes, going into this, the optics are we're about to witness a murder on pay-per-view.
Yeah, literally. Johnny, we're doing Backlash now to start, and then we'll be moving on over to Dynamite and talking some AEW after this. So we've started with WWE today because of the PLE on Saturday. So you have not missed the AEW portion yet, my friend. All right. We then have, and let me tell you, this has been my favorite stuff the last couple weeks on Raw. Singles match for the WWE Women's Intercontinental Championship. It is Lyra Valkyria defending against Becky Lynch. These last few weeks, I know I'm not alone, but I have been waiting for these promos from Lyra Valkyria since she's come up to the main roster, Chris. I thought these last 2 weeks of promos back and forth with Becky and Lyra have been the best things on the show, honestly.
This is the first time I think I've actually taken Lyra seriously, too.
Yeah.
Because for a while there, she was just kind of floating around. Like, they had her teaming with Casey Catanzaro or Katana, whatever they call her.
Mm-hmm.
It just felt like they didn't know what they wanted to do with her, and then they introduced these mid-card titles and gave her and Chelsea a lot to do.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really allowed her to come into her own. I do like Lyra. She's a great in-ring competitor. Her match with Bayley was fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
And I really hope they run that back at some point. But the funniest thing about to come out of all of this is people calling Becky Hogan.
Oh, I don't
get that either.
I don't get it at all.
But
at all.
The funniest part about it is that Becky is so secure in her job that she can go on a podcast and be like, how dare you compare me to the scummiest person on earth who WWE is still doing business with.
Yeah.
Like, Becky is, for that alone, I'm just still a huge fan of her because she has enough balls to go out there and be like, don't compare me to that racist piece of crap. Like
my thing is, if Becky Lynch is Becky Hogan, she just returned a few weeks ago, and she's feuding for a mid-card title.
Mm-hmm.
So if she was Becky Hogan, she would have said, no, I'm going to go win a world title because I'm Becky Lynch. Like, and you know what's going to happen here is, and we'll get into it, I happen to think she's going to win on Saturday. She's going to win the IC title. And then I think we're going to get a Bayley-Becky feud because she has admitted that she was the one that attacked Bayley. She went in on her on the promo on Monday. She was calling Bayley trash and saying she did her a favor and all this stuff. I do think we're going to get a major IC title feud between Becky and Bayley, which will elevate that title to a different level, because if you have all-timers like Becky Lynch and Bayley fighting for it, that makes the title worth more or seem worth more. And then at the end of this, Lyra's going to win the title back from Becky. And Lyra will be elevated and get even more over at the end of this. If she was truly Becky Hogan, she would not be doing any of this at all. Well, so I really don't understand. Just because she wins, she's one of the best to ever do it, whether you like her or not. What's the difference? And I thought Becky in that interview with Sam Roberts, she said a lot of great shit.
Where are the Roman Hogan accusations?
That's what I'm saying. Where's CM Hogan? Where's Roman Hogan? Those guys never fucking leave the top. They're always fighting for how come it's not? Nobody ever says that. Where's John? I mean, John Cena is on the level of Hogan, but like John just came back and won the title immediately. Nobody's fucking crying about, you know what I mean? It's just like, no, it's just,
no, Becky has earned her spot. And frankly, I think expecting her to not come back and immediately be put into a major storyline is just naive.
Yeah. Same thing with Charlotte. And I know Charlotte has other things that lead to her, being who she is. But at the same time, like, people are like literally upset that she came back and won she's Charlotte. What were you expecting? It's just, I don't know. That whole hate of things like, and I thought Becky in that interview where she said it, she said, oh, Roman Reigns, CM Punk, nobody's clamming for them not to be at the top. But when it comes to me and Charlotte and other people, it's always like, oh, Becky Hogan, or they always win. They don't put anybody else over. What about the next generation? And Becky's like, I don't hear it. And she even mentioned her husband in that. She said, I don't hear anybody saying that about Seth or about Roman or CM Punk or anything like that. And they're in their, late 30s, early 40s. They've been doing it for 15 years. Like, it's just a bunch of nonsense.
And quite frankly, like, if I didn't see so many women calling her Becky Hogan, I would call it sexist. But it seems like a lot of women fans are upset about this too, which is why I don't think it's necessarily sexism driven. But what I will say is there's one thing that could be contributing to it that not a lot of people realize, and that's that WWE's women's roster has grown and gotten so deep and has so many people that different groups want to see pushed.
Yeah.
Like, there is a huge fandom that would love to see Naomi get a title reign. Mm-hmm. Then there's the group that would love to see Jade. Then you have the Bianca fans who just will always be in her corner. And then you have this deep roster in NXT. So I think people want more variety out of it, which I understand. Mm-hmm. But when you have a star on Becky's level, you cannot expect a company whose main goal is profit not to push one of the more profitable people.
100%. And this is the person that you're talking within the last 5 or 6 years. She was the most within the last decade for years, she was the most popular person in the company, not women. Right. Not most popular woman in the person in the company. Like, what do you think she's going to come back and do? Like, she's going to be in a high profile feud, having high profile matches upon arrival.
And there was once a time when the crowd had to force WWE to push her.
Yeah.
Remember when, like,
they wanted her to turn and be a bad guy. When the crowd was like, no.
Yeah.
No.
But do you remember when she initially, like, did that turn and got over, and then the whole Nia Jax thing happened, and now there are people like, she needs to thank Nia for making her career. It's like, I'm sorry, that one bloody nose spot did not make her career.
No.
Like, it was a cool moment, but if you think her entire success and push came from that one image of her standing triumphantly in the crowd all bloody, you're stupid. I'm sorry, but you're stupid if you think that one moment is responsible and not the years and years and years of hard work she has put into this. Like, she is a world-traveled veteran of this business. Like, put some respect on her goddamn name.
Yeah, it's very weird. It's very, very weird. So, but with that being said, I do think this match is going to be very good on Saturday.
I actually think there's I think it's about a 50-50 chance that Bayley comes back and costs Becky the match and Lyra retains.
That's fair. I could see that happening. I don't know. Maybe it's just the way that I just think that Lyra losing and then Becky like attacking her or beating the crap out of her after the match. Becky makes the save. And then we get the Becky Bayley situation, and then Lyra kind of at the end of it, gets the belt back from Becky, and Becky puts Lyra over again like she did in NXT, which I'm glad they've referenced these last couple weeks and they've talked about it. But I think either way, even with that Becky scenario, I think that works too, because you can have a monster Becky and Bayley feud and not have it involve the IC title. But I do think, and this is nothing against Lyra, because Lyra is one of the best in-ring wrestlers they have. And now these last couple weeks, seeing a little bit of a character out of her, I think the crowd is behind her. When she came out 2 weeks ago, they were whatting her when she first started that promo. And by the end of it, they were not. And that crowd was fully behind her. And then we saw this week the crowd was behind her from the beginning.
The crowd is participating in her entrance with the woo after her, with the music, which I love to see. Like, 100%. I think her entrance theme fits her so well, and it's one of the few like Def Rebel or whatever songs that I'm saying that about. But I do think it's grown to fit her naturally.
Yeah. And again, to go, and this is the last thing we'll say about the Becky Hogan stuff, but you can tell, like almost like Lyra all of a sudden working with somebody on the level of Becky Lynch has made her infinitely more important immediately. It's crazy how that works, huh? Right. Like, it's just, and I know people are cracking jokes because there was a clip of me on this show a few weeks ago. We were talking about Lyra after the first promo a couple weeks ago, and I was like, I have been waiting this because she's been great in ring, but literally we knew nothing about who she is except that she was a bird, or she's a bird. That's all we knew, is that she was a bird. But in the last couple weeks, we've seen some fire out of her. Her promos have been good. I love how she's given Becky shit. Like, she's not, it's not just one of these, I'm going to just beat you on Saturday. It's like, no, I'm a better wrestler than you. I'm a better person than you. You're a piece of shit. She's not standing down. She's saying, like, I've beaten you before. I'm not scared of you. And I know I'm a better person than you. And I know I'm a better, they've made Lyra look tremendous these last few weeks. And I think this is the match, honestly, I'm looking forward to the most on the show on Saturday. I'm very much looking forward to this.
Honestly, it's this and the Fatal 4-Way for me. Like, both of those are just going to be great.
Yeah, I agree. And then we have our main event, Chris, for the last time, I think it is. For the last time, it's the hometown boy, St. Louis's own Randy Orton, challenging his old foe, John Cena, for the undisputed WWE Championship. This time, for the first time, where Randy Orton coming in as the babyface and John Cena as the heel. A couple weeks ago, we had a really good back and forth with Cena and Orton on SmackDown. Cena was not on SmackDown last week. I think he's on it tomorrow. Again, I really think when it comes to John Cena and Randy Orton, you don't really need to build much of a feud. It's just kind of there because of their history. But it is 2025. It is John Cena and Randy Orton, but this was a match that we all had on our checklist of must-have matches in John Cena's last year. It being in St. Louis, which is obviously Randy's hometown, it makes sense that it would be John and Randy here. But again, John Cena just won that thing at WrestleMania. John Cena ain't losing that thing, Chris. It's really going to be about what kind of shenanigans or nonsense happen to maybe help John Cena keep this title, because I expect the crowd to be fully behind their hometown boy and Randy Orton.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, it's WWE logic, right? I know this doesn't always apply anymore, but people lose in their hometown.
Yep.
So
they sure do.
Yeah, it makes sense that that's where it's going to happen. But yeah, it's like when the whole Cena farewell tour thing was announced, I was really sad that Adam Copeland was no longer around, because it's Orton and Edge are like the two biggest rivals that I think of when I think of Cena. Like Punk too, to some degree, but for not as many years.
Agreed.
As far as this match goes, no Cena versus Orton singles match has ever been, you know, a 5-star Dave Meltzer Tokyo Dome type thing.
Yeah.
But these are two guys who, like, they know each other as well as they know themselves at this point. Like, I think I looked it up on Cage Match, and if you count live events, these two have worked over 300 matches together over the years. So you're going to be hard pressed to find two guys who know each other more than them. They'd have to try to have a bad match. So I think it's going to be decent. And seeing Randy as the hero and Cena as the villain for once is going to change the dynamic and make it feel a little fresh.
Yep, agreed.
So, but yeah, I mean, we all know the title is not changing hands here as much as I would like pop for it. I just don't think it's going to happen.
No, I would agree. I do expect this to be one of the better matches that they have had with each other, and that says a lot because they have wrestled a lot of times. But yeah, John Cena will win this one. It's really just the story for me is how he wins it. Fernando, that's a fun idea, but you know, and we love R-Truth around here. R-Truth is not at the level to be getting involved in this type of match with these two fellas. As much as I love R-Truth, John Cena should have already destroyed R-Truth. If you want my humble opinion, that should have been the first thing that John Cena did after the heel turn.
See, I disagree. I think it's R-Truth who needs to save John Cena's soul and make him be a babyface before he leaves.
Well, that would be great. If they did that, that would actually be a lot of fun. If they did that,
what if The Rock orders him to destroy R-Truth because he's annoyed with him or something? And it's the one person Cena can't bring himself to do that to.
Yeah, that would be great. That would actually be great. I actually love that.
It's WWE won't do it, but I would love it.
Yeah, that would actually be a lot of fun. That idea, for sure. I would be all in on that. I thought originally I was like, all right, Cena just turned heel, this big massive moment. Have him cut that first promo to the fans because he needs to address us. And then I thought the first thing they should have done was R-Truth coming out and being like, say it ain't so, John. And John just ruining R-Truth in front of everybody to really cement that. But what you just said, Chris, Maria says that would be a beautiful story. I fully agree. That would be wonderful. I don't know if WWE has it in them, though. Has it in them to do something like that, but that would be a lot of fun.
If now we're hearing that there's all these factors in what contracts they're deciding not to renew and release, like, I hope they think R-Truth is 29.
Yeah, I hope. Yeah. I hope.
And just like nobody ever thinks to let him go. Like that guy should have a job for life.
I agree. And obviously we know that there were a lot of cuts over the weekend on Friday. Terrible. We wish the best. There's been a lot of dialogue and a lot of different sites and things about all that stuff. So we're not really going to go in and talk about it. Obviously, we wish all those people the best, and there's a lot of places for them to go and make a really good living and continue to wrestle if that's what they want to do. And we hope they do, because there were a lot of good names on that list. But just not something that we're going to super duper dive into, because it's been talked about all weekend, and it's almost a week past now. And yeah, I feel like we've already kind of heard everything we need to hear about it. We just wish the best for all those people. So, all right. So that is it on the WWE side of things. Backlash this Saturday. Should be a good show. Looking forward to it. And that Randy Orton John Cena match, we're going to have to see how it goes. But let's make our way over to some AEW talk. We had Dynamite last night. Oh God, where were they last night? Detroit. They were in Detroit, Michigan. I knew it was a big city. They were in Detroit, Michigan last night. A fun episode of Dynamite, Doc. I thought it was a lot of fun. They've been in a little bit of a hot streak here, I think. The last few months have been good, but the last month or so have been very strong episodes of Dynamite as we're leaning into Double or Nothing. And we have Beach Break next week, so about like 2.5 weeks or so, we got Double or Nothing coming up. And
this one on the 25th, right?
Yeah, 25th. Yeah, which is turning into a large weekend wrestling wise, because the 24th is Saturday night's main event, and then Sunday the 25th you have Double or Nothing and an NXT pay-per-view and Battleground as well. So that's turning into a rather large weekend for us wrestling fans. But yeah, so it took place from Detroit, Michigan last night, and the show started off very hot. We had Hangman Adam Page make his way to the ring, the crowd just loving him as they always do. Fernando, you're right. I don't want to discredit Collision either, because Collision has turned into a must-watch show here over the last 2 or 3 months as well. And they actually have a live Collision tonight as well in AEW. That'll be live at 8 from Detroit, the same place they were last night. So Hangman comes out. He says he doesn't really understand why anybody, let alone all of us, still cheer for him after everything he's done. But he wants us to know that it does make a difference and that he is grateful. I thought that was a really nice, sweet moment. You could see the emotion on his face when he said that. I thought that was a good moment. And the reason why is we love you, Hangman. That's why. But I thought that was really good. And he talks about how the last couple years have been some kind of special hell is how he phrased it, after what happened to him and his family. He's wanted revenge. He's wanted justice, and he found it. Johnny. Oh, we're going to talk about that, man. We're going to talk about that. He says that he took another man's hopes and dreams and nearly killed him, obviously referencing Swerve. He says after their cage match, he stood at the top of the ramp and thought finally he would find some kind of joy and closure to an awful chapter of his life, but he didn't feel a thing. He thought for one moment that if he went back into the ring and finished the job, he would get closure, but he couldn't do it. He says the truth is he doesn't know why he couldn't do it. He took that anger, he balled it up, he took it out on anybody that came in his way on the hopes that it would give him some catharsis, but all it did was tear everyone and everything around him down. He goes, so he had to make a decision. And then he looks directly in the camera and he mentions Swerve. He says, I'll never forget what you did to me, and I'll probably never forgive you for what you did to me. But for myself, I need to put it in the past. And he goes, and when I made that decision, I decided to enter the Owen Hart Cup tournament. I beat Josh Alexander. Last week, I beat Kyle Fletcher. And he goes, and at Double or Nothing, I have a chance to fight for the world championship. And I'm going to wrestle everyone who says is the best wrestler on the planet, Will Ospreay. And then Will Ospreay comes out. And Ospreay says, hey, you know what's crazy? In all the times that we've crossed paths and in all these companies that we've been in together, we've never spoken. And he goes, so it's a pleasure to meet you. And then he goes, but I want to apologize. He goes, it's clear that you've been going through a lot, and I understand how much this means to you. And then he kind of talks about, he mentions the Dark Order. He says, one of my favorite things you've ever done is when you took over the Dark Order and kind of were a leader for them. He talks about the cage match with Swerve and all that stuff. But he says, but I just need to let you know, at Double or Nothing, I'm not losing. He goes, I respect you. I respect your story. He goes, but this is not about your redemption. This is about my ascension. Great line by Ospreay there. I thought Ospreay brought all the fire in this promo. I thought this was a great opening segment, Chris, between Hangman and Will Ospreay. I was excited when I knew the match was happening, but after this opening promo, I am even more excited for this match at Double or Nothing. I thought this was an excellent start to the show.
Yeah, I mean, these two guys, it's true. They have very little history, so this is a fresh matchup, and with how over both of them are, like, I really could see either one of them coming out of this ahead.
Yeah,
But
I agree.
I thought it was a decent opening and got the show kicked off good. I accidentally, like, I took a nap yesterday afternoon and I accidentally ended up just sleeping all the way through Dynamite. So I had to watch it back on Max after it was over. And yeah, it was a fun promo. I thought that Hangman finally starting to shed some of that anger is a good call, because it's been going on for a while.
Yeah, I agree. And then obviously to end this promo, we see the Callis family show up at the top of the ramp. Callis tries to warn Ospreay. He says, "Hey man, you're dealing with a mentally ill sociopath in there. So you better look out." And Ospreay's basically like, "Why don't I'm sick of you guys. I've been doing this for a long time. Why don't you pick your two best?" And he kind of puts his hand on Hangman, like, and then the two of us will fight you. And Hangman really is not even paying attention to Callis. He's just looking at Ospreay, and he kind of grabs Ospreay's hand, and he's like, "We're not pals, man." He's like, he's just looking at him like, "No, like, this is not what this is. This is not what this is." So, and then it sets up next week. We're going to have a match where, can they coexist? We're getting next week with Ospreay and Hangman taking on Josh Alexander and Takeshita. The match should be incredible. But yeah, we're doing the can they coexist type thing on Dynamite next week at Beach Break. But yeah, good opening segment. I liked it. And we kind of move forward to the show as we kind of got another interruption as Stokely Hathaway and FTR show up near the commentary table. And they're there specifically to talk to Tony Schiavone. Stokely says, "You got an issue with FTR?" And Tony's like, whatever. And Stokes says, we issued you an apology, but you keep having negative things to say about us. And he goes, and now you're saying negative. And Stokely's like, now you're saying negative things about me. You called me a snake in the grass. And he goes, I have a problem with that. And he says, all you are is a decrepit, pale, pasty piece of shit. And Tony grabs the mic, and Tony gets in Stokely's face, and he goes, all right, that's enough. And I like Tony sticking up for himself here. But then FTR kind of steps up and goes, yeah, are you going to sit back down? And Tony sits back down, and FTR's like, hey, we're not going to do anything to you. Like, relax, everybody calm down. We're actually here to talk about Daniel Garcia. He turned his back on us, and he's saying that we turned his back on them. Like, we were father figures for him. We were teaching him how to do things. And he goes, and now we got to do one of those things that a father does and teach him a lesson the hard way. And they say, tomorrow night, one of us will face one of you on Collision, and we're going to hurt you emotionally. They kind of tease that right there. And then also Dax Harwood then grabs the mic and says, hey, Tony, make sure you let Nigel McGuinness know that we'll see them tomorrow. We'll see him tomorrow night too. So a little foreshadowing there. We got Pluggo in the chat saying, I just want you to know I got both your asses tonight with both hands. Harley, hashtag Harley is the go. We'll talk about Harley Cameron in just a second. But again, this new iteration of FTR, I liked Stokely tonight. I thought Stokely was very good tonight, kind of giving Schiavone shit and being kind of a shithead.
Which is like his natural state of being.
Yes, I agree. I thought he was very good. I like this new iteration of FTR where they're going to beat up announcers and old guys and just do whatever there is. They're just vicious. They don't give a shit anymore. I thought this was really good. I liked them kind of giving the warning to Nigel, and Nigel isn't, and I'm very intrigued by that because Nigel isn't your normal announcer. Like if they start to go after Nigel and give Nigel shit, Nigel's going to step up and punch him in the face.
Which I would love if we got a Dax Harwood versus Nigel McGuinness.
Oh, I would be, yes. If it could lead to that.
So good.
If this could lead to that, I would definitely be, because Nigel is not going to be a guy that sits there and takes it or has to take it like a Schiavone who's clearly outmatched and stuff like that.
Do you remember that moment during the pandemic when Seth Rollins was getting in, I forget the announcer's face, and Samoa Joe got up and he's like, you know what? No, I'm not going to let this happen.
Yeah.
You're not about to come in here and threaten my guy.
Yeah.
And like, it very much reminded me of that, where like some of these old announcers are like old badass pro wrestlers. Like, let them look like that once in a while.
100%. And it's not the same thing, but we just talked about it. That's how this whole Pat McAfee and Gunther situation started in WWE. Is Gunther was giving shit to Michael Cole, and obviously Pat McAfee is not an old wrestler like a Samoa, like that. But like, that's how this whole thing started. Was Pat McAfee is like, no, you're not taking it. You're not beating up this little guy. Like, I might get my ass kicked, but F you. I'm going to defend this guy.
Yeah.
And I like shit like that. Jerry the King Lawler used to do it all the time with JR back in the day when they were both younger. If somebody was messing with JR, not all the time, but there would be a handful of times where you would see the King stand up and take the headset off and be like, get the fuck out of here. Or I'm going to come after you. Like, you're not doing this. And I think that's such an easy wrestling. I know trope can be taken negatively, but it's such an easy wrestling thing that the crowd almost always gets behind the other announcer when things like that happens. Almost always. And I just think it's a very easy thing to do. We have, Scott saying Daniel Garcia and Nigel versus FTR. I would be more than okay with that as well, if they wanted to do that. I do think, Johnny, you're right in the long run. I do think by the time we get to All In, it's going to be Adam Copeland and Christian teaming up against FTR. I do think that's where we're going here.
You think we get a Christian babyface turn?
I think so. We're going to talk about Christian because he's coming up here in a little bit, because I'm very intrigued with what's going on with him right now. All In is getting closer and closer, which is the problem. But when this whole thing started with I feel like I think Adam Copeland's friend is going to be Christian when it comes to him versus FTR. All In seemed like the logical place, even though it keeps on creeping up closer and closer. And we haven't seen Copeland since that turn, and Christian is still dealing with patriarchy things. But I do think that's the match. I do think that is the match. Whether it's for the tag titles by the time we get there, I don't know. I'm intrigued about what they can do here, because I do think we got a couple people coming up here and later in the show that we're going to talk about that I think could be involved with FTR as well. But yeah, I thought this FTR segment was really good. If I had to guess, I would say tonight we're going to get Cash and Daniel Garcia would be my guess. But yeah, should be good. And like I said, I'm very intrigued about the Nigel stuff. I would love to see Nigel end up in a match, whether it is a tag match with Danny or a one-on-one with Dax or whoever. I would very much love if this led to a Nigel match, if they start messing with Nigel.
Yeah, because they didn't position his match with Bryan as a retirement match. So
no.
I'm assuming he's still good to work.
Yeah, and I think if you do it every so often in situations like this, I'm all in. I hope they do that way. I hope they do it. All right. Well, speaking of Harley Cameron, she had a backstage segment with Anna Jey. We were going to have a fatal four. No, that's not wrong company, Joe. We were going to have a four-way eliminator match, and Anna Jey was one of the participants, and she is backstage getting hyped up with Harley Cameron. I have enjoyed these two as a pairing. I did not think I would enjoy these two as much as I have. I like them. I like them together. Harley says that they bring the TNA, tenacity and aggression, to AEW. And then I loved Anna Jey just being like, no, and tits and ass. Like she's just openly like, yeah, and we have the other stuff too.
Yeah.
And I love Harley being like, yep, we do. Yep. And she's hyping her up and she's saying, all right, we're going to go out there and you're going to win this four-way and you're going to win the eliminator and you're going to go, fight for the world title. And I liked it because I want to make sure I say this the right way. I feel like we've gone away in wrestling, especially when it comes to female wrestlers, where we've kind of separated that either you're a really good wrestler or you're like a really attractive, you know what I mean?
Oh, for sure. You can be both.
Yes. And I feel like them talking this way and mentioning TNA and being funny with it and talking about how, yes, it is tenacity and aggression, but we're also super attractive people and we're hot and we know we're hot and we have assets and things like that. I think that is a good way to do it. because it has been separated over time.
And they're not doing it as heels where it's annoying. They're just doing it like as a joke to pop the crowd, which Harley, like everything that woman does has been amazing for a while now. So like her telling Anna Jay to get on her back for a piggyback ride to end it's so funny.
And we have Maria saying that together they remind her a little bit of the Iconics. I think that's a good,
especially with Harley having the accent.
I think that is a good.
I miss the Iconics.
I do too. I think that's a good comparison because they do like they bring that funniness and they just really work well together. And Anna Jay is kind of funnier than I thought she would be. I knew obviously Harley has been showing off the comedic chops since she's shown up, and she's wonderful. But Anna Jay kind of leaning into that in these segments with Harley, it really works together.
Remember when Anna used to just go nuts and choke out a random person backstage? She used to make me laugh during those.
Yeah. And I'm really digging this pairing together. And if we ever do down the line get some AEW women's tag titles or things like that, I think that's a pairing that I think the crowd will very, very much get behind. Anna Jay and Harley Cameron. I've enjoyed their work here. And I also enjoyed this four-way, man. Anna Jay, Penelope Ford, Thunder Rosa, and Toni Storm. I thought all four women looked really good in this match. I loved how in the middle of the match we got some Thunderstorm, or as the crowd was chanting, Thunder Tits Reunion.
Which is Toni Storm's name for them.
Yes. We got that little reunion in the middle of the match with some tag team tandem work, and they did the Hardys move there. I'm drawing a blank on the friggin' name when they jump on the back and hit him in the corner.
Poetry in Motion.
Poetry in Motion. That's right. We got a poetry in motion between with Thunder Rosa and Toni Storm on Penelope. I thought all four women looked strong, and also a woman that wasn't even in this match, Chris, showed up in the middle of it, and she maybe looked stronger than all of them. Megan Bayne at one point shows up, and she destroys all four women. She hit a massive power bomb on Anna Jay, which looked phenomenal. And it looked like she was just going to give the victory and hand it over to her pal Penelope Ford, but that Harley Cameron showed up. She has a pipe in hand. She clotheslines Megan Bayne out of the ring, and she starts beating her down with this pipe all the way to the back, which then led to the ending of the match, which saw Toni Storm. Penelope Ford had Anna Jay in the Muda lock. So at one point in this match, somebody low blowed Toni Storm. And that led to a little funny thing on commentary and just a funny spot through that. And so later on, as we get to the end of this match, Megan Bayne has already been removed by Harley Cameron. Penelope Ford has the Muda lock on Anna Jay, and Toni Storm gets in the ring and she wants to break it up. And you can see her thinking to herself for like a second, and she just kind of goes, fuck it. And she just stomps Penelope in the low blow, in the region, breaking up the pin, and then she hits Penelope Ford with the crossface chicken wing, and Penelope Ford taps out, and Toni Storm still remains undefeated in Eliminator challenges as champion. Very fun four-way, Chris. All four women look strong in it. Toni Storm, I love how they're just letting Toni just wrestle and have banger matches every show. It's not even every week, it's every show. She's wrestling on Dynamite, Collision, every show she's on. And she's just wrestling, and, not that anybody has forgotten that Toni Storm is one of the best wrestlers in the world, but her character is so good that I think you can forget how good of a wrestler she is. And I think that this title reign so far, they are reminding us every show how good of a wrestler she is. And I've loved it.
I also think that might be an indication of this not being as long as her last reign.
I agree.
I feel like the company wants to pack a lot in real quick, and then they're going to have her put somebody else over, possibly Megan Bayne.
I think Megan Bayne still is the choice. And I know Fernando is in the chat saying as well. I know she already lost the match that they had at the last pay-per-view, but I do still think down the line, Megan Bayne is the choice.
Personally, I'd rather see her beat Mercedes for the TBS title. That would be good.
Wouldn't hate that either. And we're going to talk about those two, because I do think, obviously, we do have the Owens finals and the women. And I think that has become more of a discussion here over the last. I feel like, I don't want to jump ahead of the show, but I feel like, especially on the women's side, when the bracket was released, I feel like a lot of us were just like, oh, Mercedes is winning that. And I'm not so sure anymore, Chris. And I want to save that discussion from when we get to that segment. But I'm very much liking what we're seeing with the women on AEW. I like how they had the first match on the show tonight. There were a couple weeks in a row where they were the main event match. I'm liking to see them in different spots now. I just need to see more than one women's match a show still consistently. But I really like what they're doing with the women's match, and I think they've kind of set themselves up in a good way where either way they go with the finals, they have a good story with Tony. Either way they go. They've kind of put themselves in a good position. And even in this match, you have a nice little tag match that can come out of this with Penelope and Megan versus Harley and Anna Jay. That's something that they kind of built at the end here so we can have a fun little tag program between the four of those women. I did like the Thunder Rosa Tony Storm callback as they're friendly. And even after the match, they were I thought it was a little weird because Thunder Rosa just lost, but they were kind of celebrating together after the match. I'm kind of digging what they're doing with the ladies over on AEW.
I mean, the fact that we're getting more shows with more than one match is going a long way.
Yeah, and especially like Collision as well.
We had 3 matches on the last Collision, right?
Yeah, there were 3. So like Collision has kind of been this second show, and for a long time, Collision kind of lost its way, and it felt like not even a B show. It felt like the C show, to be honest with you. But over the last couple months, Collision has really turned into a strong television show again. And they have multiple different storylines happening with everybody, but with the women. And the women are being highlighted on that show a lot too. And I think it, like you said, it's come a very, very long way. And I very much enjoyed it.
I'm really glad we're starting to see more variety too, because it did feel like AEW relied way too much on Mariah May and Tony to carry the division when they have a very deep division of great talent.
They do.
And I know that there's a lot of people who've gotten more ring time in Ring of Honor that we're not seeing on the, I don't want to say the main roster because that's sort of a WWE term, but let's be honest, it's kind of what it is.
Yeah.
And, some of that is starting to make its way. Like, I know Layla Gray has had a lot of stuff in ROH, and now we're starting to see her in AEW a little bit more.
Yep.
Beyond just being top flight's valet.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think with the Owen coming up, I see Jamie winning, to be honest.
I do too. I've completely done a 180. Yeah, I think Jamie's going to win.
And Jamie, like, ever since she came back, she's had a different type of confidence that she didn't have during her last run.
Mm-hmm.
And it's that confidence of like, I've been to the top. I know I'm going there again. You're all kind of just hurdles in my way. So I'm just going to fight every one of you until I get there. Like, she no longer seems like she's trying to be a top star. She just is one.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'd really like to see her with her whole like kind of 70s-ish vibe she's got going on these days, like taking on this Hollywood starlet Tony Storm. It would just be a fun little meshing of genres there.
Yeah. And we had a segment, so last week we had a sit down with Mercedes. This week, Renee had a sit down with Jamie Hayter. And Jamie Hayter is saying, she's going to be damned if she lets Mercedes win the Owen. She says she's the exact opposite of everything Owen Hart stood for. And she goes, she wants to strip away my character. I want to get to know the real Mercedes. She goes, Mercedes says that her and I are similar. I'm insulted by that. We're nothing alike. She goes, I love action and energy. Mercedes loves running away. She goes, I might not have her accolades or star power, but I have integrity. I have more of a reason to hurt her. It's not about gold or glory. It's about showing Mercedes that she can't do whatever she wants, and she's not the second coming of whatever she thinks she is. Renee then asks her about her back injury, and she says, that's irrelevant. I'm good to go. And then she goes, and Mercedes is kind of not taking me seriously. And right as she says that, Mercedes Moné attacks Jamie Hayter from behind out of nowhere. They brawl down a hallway and they kind of get off camera for a second. And then we kind of go back to the commentary table and we hear the crowd and they are brawling into they were in an old theater. This was a very cool, these venues that AEW has been going to lately are just so cool looking and they're just unique and they're great. And they kind of fought in the box seats in the theater and they make their way to the stage just fighting. And Mercedes ends up running away, so it looks like Jamie gets the best of her, and Jamie turns around to kind of pose with the trophy, and Mercedes attacks and blindsides her from behind, hits the statement maker, locks it in. The referees show up, they break Mercedes off, and the segment actually ends with Mercedes standing tall. And this is where I wanted to dive into it deeper because, listen, and you know me, I'm a Mercedes guy. I am a Mercedes guy through and through. Boston represent. She's my girl. All right. And we have some people in the chat saying Mercedes versus Timeless is the bigger match. It should be on the biggest pay-per-view. Maria's saying the story of Mercedes trying to become 5 belts Monet is a more compelling story, in my opinion. And Ophelia is, and her and I are obviously, we talk a lot, as I know you guys do as well. Her and I are on the same page here. Ophelia says if Mercedes wins, it ties up both titles in one match at All In. She says that she's still expecting Athena and Mercedes at All In. And that's where my mind's at. Like, do I agree that Mercedes versus Tony might be a bigger match? I do. I do agree that that's a bigger star match. But the match with Jamie Hayter and Tony, to me, is a better story. They have more of a history. When Jamie was banged up at All In, Tony Storm beat her for the world title. And then we didn't see Jamie Hayter for almost a year. When Jamie Hayter returned, even though it was on the pre-show, it was at All In. And she returns. Now, a whole other year later, at All In. And I get it. It's not in Wembley where Jamie's from. I get it. It's in Texas now. But still, a whole nother year later at All In, Jamie Hayter going to win her title back against the person that beat her for that title, and Tony wasn't Timeless at that time. Tony was like kind of in the descent of going crazy to becoming Timeless at that time. I just think there's more of a juicy story. And then on the flip side of that, you kind of open yourself up to having 2 great matches at All In instead of 1, because then Mercedes can have that match against Athena and that rematch for the TBS title at All In Athena's hometown, home state. I just think, and like Mercedes is undefeated in singles competition. They're really talking that. They're making that a point here leading into this. And this is the finals of a tournament. Mercedes won't lose one of her belts. It won't really affect storylines for Mercedes hugely. I think this is kind of the perfect scenario for Mercedes to get that first loss. And then it leads into 2 giant matches at All In on the women's side of things, not just 1.
And if they want to, they can always do a weird, goofy finish to protect Mercedes a little bit, where one of her many rivals comes out and...
Yeah, what if Athena comes out?
Yeah,
it could just be Athena that comes out and costs or distracts Mercedes. The way that match ended that they did in Boston, it wasn't like Mercedes made her tap out or emphatically beat her. She rolled her up. She rolled her up after 30 minutes.
Which I thought was the best
100%.
Way to do it, because
Fully
you
agree.
don't want to give a definitive finish to that matchup before you put it at a major event.
Yeah.
My question is, do you think we get a title for title match where it's the ROH title and the TBS title on the line?
We could. I mean,
honestly,
honestly,
with Mercedes wanting a whole belt collector gimmick, like, she could always just throw up the whole thing of like, why am I defending my title and you're not?
Yeah, I could see that happening. I think that would make sense. I do think, I mean, if we're getting that far, I do think Athena would go over in that match. But
I hope so.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. That's the way, like, again, like I don't discredit anybody that thinks Mercedes is going to win this tournament and go against Timeless. Like, that's a huge match, and that's a match that should happen at some point. And I get it. I just feel like the story they've been telling here over the last 2-3 weeks, as weeks go on, I'm leaning more and more. Like, I'm fully on board where I think Hayter is going to do it. And I think that she is going to upset Mercedes and win this tournament. And I just think that is, I don't think you can go wrong either way. Like I said a little earlier, I do think they've kind of built it that you can have a good story either way they go on both sides of the Owen, to be honest with you. But yeah, no, I'm leaning Jamie. I think the longer this goes to the lead up, I think Jamie is going to be the one that wins. And I think it's a good opportunity to get that first loss on Mercedes, and it doesn't really affect much with Mercedes, even though she loses.
Right, because it's just a tournament, and Jamie's a former world champion. It's not like her beating Mercedes should be a surprise.
Correct. And I just feel like it's just the way to do it. And like I said, you can really lean into the years of history between Timeless, Toni Storm, and Hayter. And then you can really get that second match in Texas, where Athena's. The first match was in Boston, where Mercedes is from. The second match is in Texas, where Athena is from. It makes all the sense in the world to me. So that's where my mind's at right now when it comes to that. And then speaking of the women, right after this, we had Willow Nightingale being interviewed backstage. And she's asked about the Death Riders, and she says, yeah, they've been a pain in my ass, but I'm lucky I'm not alone in fighting them. But I want to make sure that I'm the first to put some fists in their faces. And Chris Statlander rolls up. And she says, if you don't want to talk in the back to me, then fine, we'll do it right now. And Willow said, look, I'm glad you're sorry or whatever. And I'm sad that you lost the Owen this year, but I could have won the Owen last year if it wasn't for you. So I don't want to talk about this anymore. I'm done talking about it. However, if you want to accept a match tomorrow night, we can settle it in the ring, and I will gladly fight you here in Detroit on Collision. And Statlander accepts. So tonight on Collision, we are getting another Chris Statlander versus Willow match. Every match that these two have had has been great. I expect this one tonight to be no different. And yeah, I like how they're kind of we're continuing this. They have a history, these two together, clearly that dates back to the Owen of last year, and I very much like this. Yeah, I do. I feel I do like that too. That Willow calls her Kristen by her full name, Kristen.
That was very funny.
Yes, I did like that. But I like this little segment, and that match should rule tonight.
Anybody who knows me knows that I'm a big fan of both of these women, especially Willow. But yeah, I think I am so at a loss with what they do here at the end. Like, which one wins, or do they just do a dirty finish because Marina Shafir shows up and attacks?
I think that's where I think it'll go. I think Shafir, yeah.
Like they're going to give them a common enemy to team up against, sort of thing.
Probably. I don't know who Shafir would then find, and if they wanted to do a tag, because obviously she's the lone woman in the Death Riders. I don't know how they go about that, but I could see something because obviously we've seen Willow and Stat before. They've always been excellent in the ring as opponents, and tonight will be the same. But the match I really want to see is I want to see Willow and Shafir. I want to see Willow beat the crap out of Shafir. So I do maybe expect some shenanigans. And we've seen Moxley get right in there and drop Willow too. He doesn't give a shit. So, it is one of those things.
They did sort of make it look like he didn't know who he was grabbing.
Yeah, that is true.
And then the look on his face of like, oh shit, that was her.
Yeah, I guess they did lean into that a little bit, but
that also gives them an excuse to have Willow powerbomb Moxley, which is what I want to see.
Yeah. So we'll have to see where it goes tonight and in the future here, but yeah, very much looking forward to that match tonight between those two. All right. We then had a Continental Championship contender match. So right before this, we had Roosh cutting a promo in some sort of hallway, and he basically was calling out Kevin Knight, and he said, "You ruined my opportunity last week, and I'm gonna make you pay for that. And just remember, when you mess with the bull, you get the horns." And then that leads to Kevin Knight making his entrance in this eliminator match. And Okada's already in the ring. He has made his entrance. Kevin Knight's coming out and he gets attacked immediately by Roosh. And Roosh absolutely beats the piss out of him while Dralistico is just kind of standing at the top of the ramp and playing security, really, and letting him do it because we see Speedball Mike Bailey try to make the save. And there's some security guards that come out first, and Dralistico's fighting them off. And then Speedball makes his way to the ring and runs off Roosh, but the damage had been done. And they did the thing where Aubrey, the ref, is like, I'm going to call off this match. He can't wrestle. I got to call it off. And Kevin Knight is like, no, don't call it off. Like, I'm going to fight. I'm hurt, but I'm going to fight. And Aubrey's like, hey, it's Continental Rules, Speedball. You got to get the hell out of here. If he wants to wrestle, you got to get the hell out of here. And we end up having this match between Okada and Kevin Knight. And it turns into a pretty good, it was, still a quicker match, but it turns into a pretty good match between the two. I thought they made Kevin Knight look really great. They've made Kevin Knight look great since he's shown up.
Yeah, they really have.
Yeah, they've done a really great job with him. And I thought tonight, him getting his ass kicked like that, but then turning into a competitive underdog type fight where he almost beats Okada a couple times and the crowd is really behind him. But at the end of the day, the attack is just too much from what he was feeling. And he gets the Rainmaker for the victory. And then after the match, he hits a couple other Rainmakers to the point where Speedball has to come back out and run Okada off, which could tease a little bit of a Speedball versus Okada match in the future. Please, yes. I thought this was good stuff. I thought most of the stuff on Dynamite was really good. You're not going to hear many negatives from me, but I thought this was good stuff. Again, even in defeat, I thought Kevin Knight came out of this looking like $1 million.
Yeah, I really like the way Kevin Knight has looked since he's shown up, because even the matches he loses, he still looks great. I almost feel like this is what they wanted to happen with Action Andretti.
I think that's a good way to put
it. But they saddled him with the Jericho.
I was going to say, you put him with Jericho, it's probably not going to go the way you want.
But yeah, the pairing of Kevin Knight and Speedball the last few weeks has seemed pretty random. Like, they're the two new guys, throw them together once in a while, but like they've worked really well together, so I'm not mad at it.
Yeah. Jet Speed, is that what they're going by? That's what they've referred to.
That makes sense, right? Like,
yeah.
Jet
Speed is their name. I like it. I think, when you have all like single storylines kind of tied up and other things being this close to a pay-per-view, you got these two new guys that have gotten immediately over with the crowd because they're just so good in the ring. I think putting them together in a fun tag team outfit, I think that'll go well for them until they eventually kind of become solo stars on their own, which they already could do now. But
I think what's cool is that like Speedball came into AEW, and I would argue that at least half, if not more, of the AEW fan base was aware of who Speedball Mike Bailey was.
Mm-hmm.
And that's without him ever having really worked for a big promotion.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, he did a little bit of stuff in TNA and he's been on the indie scene for a while, but like he got himself over so much before signing with AEW that by the time he got there, people were so excited.
Yep. 100%.
So they had to do very little work to convince people, hey, this is somebody who you should believe can hang with these big names we're already putting him in the ring with.
Yeah, I fully agree. I think these two guys in particular, Kevin Knight and Speedball, they've done an excellent job of incorporating them right into big time stuff, making them feel important immediately. Speedball debuts in that tournament to go fight Kenny Omega. Then he has that excellent 3-way with Ricochet and Kenny at the pay-per-view. Yeah, man, I think they've knocked it out of the park with both these guys.
Meanwhile, Josh Alexander got paired with Don Callis right away for some reason.
Yeah. I mean, look at Alexander's having quality matches that he should be okay. But yeah, you can kind of see the difference in bringing people in, how they've kind of presented Speedball and Kevin Knight as compared to
former TNA world champion Josh Alexander.
That is true. All right, I am going to cycle back because I know we kind of jumped ahead to the Jamie Hayter stuff, and I did that match, which happened after. But we had some stuff earlier in the show with the Hurt Syndicate. They make their entrance. MVP gets on the mic. He introduces both Shelton and Bobby, says they're the champs. They're the tag champs. It's AEW. We're the best wrestle. How come nobody's stepping up? They've dismantled everybody. They hurt people, but nobody's stepping up to challenge them. And then we see, and you mentioned them a little earlier when talking about Layla Gray, Top Flight makes their way. Darius Martin gets on the mic. He says, look, we've been down on our luck lately. I get it. He goes, a lot of people didn't think that we'd be coming out here talking to you guys, but we like a challenge. We like an opportunity. He kind of shits on Crew, who's in the crowd looking at this. And he says, they're afraid to step up to you guys. He goes, but we're not. We've been knocked down before. And we know how to overcome injury. We know how to overcome things in our way. He goes, so we're ready to challenge you guys. What do you think? And as they approach the ring, we see Maxwell, Jacob, Friedman, and he's got his fists taped up. He's got his undershirt on. He looks like he's ready for a street fight. And he comes out and he absolutely destroys Top Flight. He's throwing him into the barricade, throwing him into the steps, repeatedly punching him. Both guys are busted open. At one point, he picks up Dante and rubs his blood on his shirt and beats the crap out of him.
That apron powerbomb was brutal.
Yeah, he hits an apron powerbomb that looked very gnarly.
That was Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens.
Brutality. Yeah, very gnarly.
I hope Dante is okay.
Yeah. And then he slides in the ring and he asks MVP for the mic. And he gets right in Bobby's face and he just yells, I hurt people. And Bobby kind of looks at Shelton and Shelton's like, hey, Then he looks at MVP and MVP kind of turns his back and is like, whatever you want, man. Whatever you decide. And Bobby tells MJF that he will have an answer for him next week. So we are going to, at Beach Break in Chicago, we are going to have this segment where Bobby will give MJF his final answer, as MJF hopefully, in his eyes, just proved to Bobby that he should be in the Hurt business. Now, I'll throw this over to you. To me, and we got some people, Ophelia saying Cedric Alexander is officially a free agent now. Obviously, he was a member of the original Hurt business when it was in WWE. A lot of people have been clamoring for him when he was available to come join the Hurt Syndicate over here and complete the original grouping. How do you think this goes next week, Doc? Do you think that MJF finally Bobby caves and he lets him in and he just joins for a little bit and then eventually something happens? Do you think next week Bobby finally accepts him and MJF tells him to go screw? Do you think that there's, our pal Jose on the Air, who I do a Dynamite post show with over on Body Slam, he thinks that next week we're going to have a swerve and Cedric Alexander is going to show up and attack MJF and he's going to actually be the new member and they're going to kind of screw MJF again. How do you see this one going next week? How do you think this goes with MJF and the Hurt Syndicate?
I honestly don't know because the Hurt Syndicate is arguably a heel team that is getting babyface reactions right now.
Yep.
So there's two ways you go about it. You either embrace that and make them tweener / babyface and have them say no, or you have them bring MJF in, which is the stupid thing. I think next week they should have Bobby just straight up be like, listen, you've betrayed everybody. What makes you think we would trust you for even a second? And then just make it out to be we've just been stringing you along because it's funny, or something like that. There's a lot of ways they could go with it. As far as Cedric goes, I don't know if Tony and Big Swole ever patch things up, because if not, then I don't know if Cedric's going to work there. Yeah, I agree. As much as I would like to see him back on television, I also don't think he would fit with the group right now. They're kind of great the way they are. I don't think they need a fourth guy. And I don't know how strong he would get booked in comparison to them.
It's fair. That's fair. For me, we talked about FTR earlier. I kind of always thought that this would lead to MJF screwing over the Hurt Syndicate and FTR getting the tag titles from it.
Going back to a little Pinnacle business.
Kinda. They've referenced the Pinnacle, not the group, but they've said the name the Pinnacle a handful of times over the last month or so on commentary during MJF segments. Obviously, he has a history with Stokely and the Forgotten Firm, if we remember the Firm, for how quickly they were around. So I feel like, especially if a Cedric Alexander,
I did forget about that.
If a Cedric Alexander thing were to come about this and he joins the Hurt Syndicate and they have the original group back together and you have the 3 wrestlers and MVP who can still wrestle, I think MJF kind of aligning with Stokely and the Firm. I'm not the Firm. Stokely and FTR makes sense because he has a history with all 3 of those guys. FTR has been saying this whole time that their main goal is getting back the AEW tag team titles. I think that's a way to do it. You can do the 4-on-4 if you want. Obviously, Stokely and MVP are not the same when it comes to wrestling, but Stokely can wrestle. He's been in matches before. Yeah. It could lead to a 4-on-4 if you do it that way. I think there's a way to do it if they do it that way. I'm still interested to see how they could potentially get there. But in my head, that's where it kind of went, was like, oh, I could see this leading to either Bobby finally is like, you know what, you proved it to me, you're in, and MJF is like, yeah, you took too long, fuck you, kind of thing, and doesn't go in because he decides, no, I'm not going in, and then it leads to this big angle. Or maybe he does join and they have a big tag title match against FTR, and then the turn happens. I don't know. I've always thought maybe that repairing, and that's a good way to get FTR the titles and get the titles away from, I don't know. That's kind of been on the tip of my brain when it comes to where this story could go.
It would be fun and it would shock everybody.
Yeah.
This is where you bring back Wardlow.
I would not hate it because Wardlow's a big boy. Bobby's a big boy. I would not hate it. I know he was out injured for a long time. I don't know what his status is currently.
Me neither. If he's healthy and ready, it's
just like he was so over. At one point, he was so over. And we got Dan Brown saying he loves the Wardlow idea. I love the Wardlow idea too. I would love to see him if he's good to go. I think that's a guy that was one of the more over guys in the company, 3, 4, 5 years ago? Not even 3 couple years ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago.
I mean, when he beat MJF with just 10 straight power bombs.
Yeah.
Which I found so funny because when I interviewed him, I asked him, I was like, in your mind, how's this match go with MJF? Because it was about to happen when I talked to him.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, in my mind, I'm going to power bomb him 10 times and pin him and walk out of the ring.
Well, that's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
That's exactly what happened.
So happy.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Yeah, so a lot of ways they can go about it. Stretching it out another week, fine. They're obviously making Beach Break this gigantic show next week, so fine. But yeah, I'm interested in it. We then had a backstage thing with Ricochet and the Bucks. Ricochet rolls up. He says, I was eager to team. I'm excited to team with you guys. I have beaten Swerve twice. I know you have a Swerve problem. Well, I've beaten him twice. I got his number. So if you follow my lead, I can show you how to do it. And the Bucks are like, yeah, man, cool. Yeah, you can totally take the lead tonight. We're cool with that. We'll just do what we got to do, blah, blah. And they open their locker room door. And sitting in their locker room in the dark, we see the Death Riders.
Was it all of them? I couldn't tell.
It was, yeah. It was just super dark. But yeah, it was all of them. And they go, what can we help you guys with? And before the camera can get in there, Marina Shafir slams the door in the camera's face. So it looks like we got some storytelling coming in our future about the Bucks with the Death Riders and things of that nature. And then it was time, the patriarchy makes their way to the ring. Nick Wayne comes out first, and he's immediately interrupted by Christian Cage. And I love Justin Roberts here as well. On top of it, Justin Roberts he's starting it off by doing his big normal announcement for Nick Wayne. Christian's music hits, and then he just very quickly finishes the announcement of Nick Wayne, and then he gives all the pomp and circumstance to introducing Christian right after that. And Nick Wayne's face is like, what the fuck? And he's just sitting there like, huh? Come on. And we were told earlier in the night that that Christian made this match, and that Nick Wayne was going to be fighting someone from Christian Cage's past. So we didn't know who he was going to be facing. And I love Taz on commentary. It was like, yeah, Christian has quite a past. This could be anybody. But we find out it is Detroit's own Rhino. And it is for the Ring of Honor World Television Championship. A good spot for Rhino. Got a huge pop from the local crowd. And the crowd was really behind Rhino this whole match. And to be honest with you, for a just put together Nick Wayne versus friggin' Rhino match, it's actually kind of fun. This is actually a pretty fun match. And Nick Wayne gets the victory. He gets the victory by hitting Kill Switch on Rhino, which I did not expect him to hit Kill Switch. I thought that was a nice little foil to this story. He ends up defeating Rhino, and then post-match, Christian grabs the belt from the ref. Nick Wayne is like, give me my damn belt. And it looks like Christian is going to put it around Nick's waist like we've seen him do a couple times. But he stops, and he changes his mind, and he's still looking at the title, and Nick Wayne is like, give me my friggin' title. And Christian hands it out, and as Nick goes to grab it, Christian just drops it on the mat, and Christian walks out laughing and, popped himself, you could say, Doc. Now, the only thing that is unfortunate about this is I've been really digging what they've been doing here with the patriarchy since Christian has come back. But now, as of today, Nick Wayne is going to be on a plane heading to Japan to be in the Best of the Super Juniors. So we're not going to see Nick Wayne on AEW television for probably a month or so, which is kind of a bummer because I am really digging what they're doing here. But I thought this was good. I thought this was, nice little hometown pop for Rhino. Crowd was jacked up and loud throughout this whole match behind Rhino. But another good victory for Nick Wayne, another good defense. And then we kind of lean more into the soon-to-be constant contention between Nick Wayne and Christian and kind of what's going on with the patriarchy. I did notice right after Christian left the ring, Kip Sabian followed him immediately. And Mother Wayne and Nick kind of stayed in the ring, and Mother Wayne was consoling Nick kind of after that. So maybe with Nick Wayne being away, they do a thing where Kip Sabian kind of becomes the right-hand man of Christian. So maybe when Nick comes back, Sabian is kind of taking Nick's spot a little bit more, and you can go into that. But yeah, I'm very intrigued about what the future holds for how this is going to go.
I'm kind of curious if Shayna is going with Nick or if she is going to be on TV with Christian.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
But either way, at the end of the day, she has to pick her son, right? I
would think. Although it would be a very Christian Cage thing to do if she chose him.
Really done much with her, so they haven't built her into the kind of woman who you would expect to throw their own son under the bus.
Yeah.
Especially with the history of the actual family and and Buddy Wayne's passing and everything. Like, you can't, I don't know. It's just weird, but I like Shayna a lot. I wish they would do a little bit more with her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I'm very interested to see how they go about it, because I can't see them doing a Kip Sabian kind of, Nick's not here, so let me kind of weasel my way in to be Christian's right-hand man this next month. So maybe when Nick Wayne comes back, there's a different hierarchy in the patriarchy, if that makes sense. I could see that happening, but yeah, I think they're in the process of making Nick Wayne a solo star, and Christian is kind of filling that role to perfection, actually, and helping them do that. I've liked what they've done here this last month or so with these guys. Well, all right, we then had another all-star. It wasn't an 8-man tag this week, Doc. It was a 6-man tag this week, an all-star. It was Mark Briscoe, Speedball Mike Bailey, and Shane Swerve Strickland going up against Ricochet and the Young Bucks. This match was awesome. Let me tell you, Ricochet fits right in with the Elite. Right in. From a character standpoint, from how this match went, he looks like, I don't think they're going to be adding any members soon or anything like that, but he looks like someone that could easily just fit right in with that group.
Yeah, it's a fun pairing. Ricochet, like, I really hope all that Andrew Tate crap is just for the gimmick he's followed him for a long time apparently. So I don't know, but like he's done a really great job of just being the dickhead heel you really want to see get beaten, and then when he wins, he just rubs it in your face even harder.
Yep.
But like the whole like slapping the bald head thing, I know a few bald guys who are like, I am personally offended by this.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like he sells it in the funniest way.
Mm-hmm.
Like the spot when he flipped out of the ring and all 4 guys did it at once the other week was just one of the funniest parts.
Yeah. And we've been saying it for a long time, but like, I feel like I am more impressed with Ricochet from a character. We've always known what he can do inside the squared circle. Like that shouldn't be a shock to anybody. But I did not think that he had this type of character work in him. And it clearly wasn't his fault. He was just never put in positions to succeed. He has been tremendous.
Yeah.
He has been tremendous.
He's worked really hard to be different from what fans remember.
Yeah.
Which was in WWE was always just the nice guy who could do flips. Like he never had this much personality. So it's been great to watch.
Yeah, it really has. And this match was really great to watch. All 6 of these guys, you get to the middle part of these matches where they're just all doing all their shit. It's just fast paced. There's really no rules anymore and nothing like that. They're going back and forth. The tandem offense that each trio did was excellent. Swerve was, doing house calls and doing all these things. The crowd was just losing their mind. But in the end, Swerve gets, and it wasn't like there was no cheating. It wasn't like there was anything, bad guy way that happened. He just straight up, he gets in the ring and Matt Jackson cradles him up in a small package and he gets the 1, 2, 3 over Swerve. And Swerve looks shocked, and then that shock turns into anger, and he's angry. The Bucks one-up him again. And I thought it was a nice little ending with the Bucks kind of getting the 1-up and specifically pinning Swerve. Again, I'm excited to see where this leads. Obviously Hangman Adam Page is dealing with Will Ospreay in the finals of the Owen tournament at Double or Nothing. But it seems to me that Swerve might need, maybe friends is the wrong word, but Swerve is going to need some allies. He's going to need an ally here soon. And I think, we talked about how we both feel that Hayter is going to beat Mercedes. We didn't really talk about how we feel about the men's side of things. But I think if Ospreay does beat Hangman, I could see another big tag match at All In being Swerve and Hangman teaming up against the Bucks. I feel like that would be a very proper big-time tag match to add to your big-time show at All In if they go that route, with Ospreay getting the victory over Hangman at Double or Nothing. I think that's another big match to have on the side.
I'll be honest, there's part of me that doesn't want AEW to do a Hangman Swerve team up.
I'm with you. I am fully with you there. I don't want them to.
Because that is a trope that has been done so much in pro wrestling.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, you need a blood feud where the two never work together and never team up.
Yep.
And it would just be nice if that was these two, but we're probably the team up because it is something a lot of fans want.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's something they've been teasing. Hangman has kind of been looking for Swerve, and even in the earlier promo, he said, I'm putting it in the past. Like, I don't know if I'll ever forgive you, and, I'll never forget what you did, but that's not my focus right now. For me, I need to not think about this anymore. I just think the Bucks coming back, and the main reason they said they did it was for Hangman. I could see them doing it. I'm kind of more on your level of things where it's like, these guys took it to a level that we haven't seen before.
Right. A house was burned down.
Yeah, house was burned down. You had a guy get crucified over a corner, like over a rope, hung over a rope. You had syringes inside people's mouth, like they're drinking blood. Like, this went to a level that we haven't really seen before in AEW, let alone in many other promotions too. At some point, there is the point of no return. And if Hangman and Swerve is not the point of no return, then what the hell is? And so I get it, but I also get it's a big time match. And there are a lot of people that want to see Swerve and Hangman team up. There are a lot of fans that want it. So I could see it happening. And Johnny mentioned earlier in the chat, he said last night in the promo and we should have talked about it earlier, but with Ospreay and Hangman, Ospreay was getting a little bit of booze. And I wanted to ask you earlier, but we'll do it now before we get towards the main event of the evening and stuff. But I feel like when both these tournaments were released, when we saw the brackets before any of the matches, I think the consensus from a lot of people was, Ospreay's winning the men's, Mercedes is winning the women's. Like, I feel like that was the consensus of many. And now they're both in the finals, and we got Ospreay against Hangman, and you got Hayter and Mercedes. And I feel like on the men's side, I feel like Ospreay is still the move.
Yeah.
However, the fans are they want Hangman. They want Hangman. And I could see a scenario at Double or Nothing like Ospreay being the heel there, because if the crowd is going to root for anybody over the other, they're going to be rooting for Hangman. He's the main, and Will even referred to him in the promo. He's the main character of AEW, Hangman. He is the main character of the promotion. And to me, that's who he's been in the 5+ years that it's been here. He's the main character. He's the guy that no matter like he said in his promo, all the shit that he's done, we still love him. And that's because he is who he is. And I could see a scenario where in that match, we kind of get as the match goes, the crowd is fully behind Hangman, and everything that Ospreay's doing, he's getting boos, not because the people dislike him, but because the people really want Hangman. I could see that happening at Double or Nothing in this match with Ospreay and Hangman.
Yeah, I could too, but I think with Ospreay just being as good as he is, it's going to be a split crowd, or it's going to be one of those crowds that's just popping for everything, frankly.
Yeah, and I think it's one of those things too where even if that scenario does happen, once the match is over and we get to the Dynamite on that Wednesday and Ospreay comes out and cuts that promo, the crowd is going to be an overwhelmingly favorite of his. Like it's not like he's going to become a bad guy out of it. I could just see everybody really wanting Hangman to be the world champion again.
Yeah.
And even though it's Will Ospreay, who we all adore as well, Hangman's our guy. And I could see the crowd kind of going that way and swaying that way a little bit.
We just need to get the belt away from Moxley.
We do.
How long has it been since we've actually seen
October? I want to say he won the belt in October. So it's been a good 8 months or so. 6 months, 8 months, something. It's been a while. It's been longer than half a year. If
they do the thing that I want them to do, I'll be happy.
What is the thing you want them to do?
I want them to finally open the briefcase and the title is in there destroyed, and it leads to a new design, because I'm frankly not a big fan of the AEW Championship design.
Okay, fair enough.
I think most of the other belts look better than it.
That is fair. I wouldn't disagree. I think the Continental Championship is a good looking title. There are a lot of belts that they have that are pretty belts. All right. Speaking of Will Ospreay, after this 6-man, he is in the back with Renee Paquette. And right before he can really get into his promo, MJF interrupts, and he puts over how you can buy replicas of the Dynamite Diamond Ring on shopaew.com, and he says, "Hey, why don't you guys go buy these and make me richer and make yourselves more poor?" So he does
that was a good line.
Yep, he does his little shilling here. And then Ospreay's like, "What the hell are you doing here?" And MJF says, "You know what? I'm just here to kind of tell you that I hope you win the Owen, and then I hope you go into All In Texas and you win the world title, because then after that I can get an easy dub and get my world title back." And then Ospreay goes, "Oh, get an easy dub, huh?" He goes, "Well, if it was going to be that easy, how come you didn't join the Owen?" He goes, "Was there some little fear in your brain that ended with me picking you up and dunking you on your head again?" He goes, "How's the power feeling in your arms?" And MJF kind of laughs it off, and he's like, "Yeah." He goes, and this was another great line by MJ. Ospreay even laughed at it. He goes, "Well, you're the reason why they put instructions on shampoo bottles."
Yeah.
That was a good line. That made me laugh. And like I said,
Will
Ospreay
popping for it was funny too.
Ospreay was even like, that was pretty good. And MJF says that when they wrestle again, Will find out that nobody is on the level of the devil. And as MJF is trying to leave, Ospreay pulls him a little bit closer, and he goes, "Nah." He goes, "That's not how it goes." He goes, "Because I'm Will Ospreay, and I'm on another level." So we get a little bit of a tease. And I like what they've done here, too, because MJF has unfinished. Obviously, he's dealing with the Hurt Syndicate, and he's got that going on. But MJF also has unfinished business with both Will Ospreay and Hangman Adam Page. So and MJF has said in his promos, not all of them, like he didn't tonight with the Hurt Syndicate, but in a lot of his promos, the main thing that MJF is focused on, even though he's dealing with other shit, is that he wants the Triple B back. The goal is to get the Triple B back, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that he has unfinished business with both Ospreay and Hangman, it kind of foreshadows that after All In, no matter who the champion is, even Moxley to an extent, but no matter who the champion is, which we assume will either be whoever wins the Owen. I know it's not a good thing to assume, but hopeful to God that whoever wins the Owen wins this title away from Moxley. MJF can just kind of walk right into a built-in story with history with either one of those guys, if that's the route that they go. And Johnny says, "I love how top guys are in multiple stories." That's one thing that I'm loving that they're doing in AEW right now, is there are people in multiple things. And I love on both sides, women and men. The main people, the people towards the top of the card, they got more, not all of them, but a lot of them have more than one thing going on. And I love that. And I think that is a really good way to book wrestling shows.
I will say one thing, though.
Yeah.
I do feel like all of AEW's mid-card titles are being held by guys that are just waiting for their world title run or shot. The mid-card has suffered as a result. You have Okada, Omega, and Cole as your three mid-card male champions. It's cool, but it also feels like Tony wants too many people to be the world champion right now, and that's the problem.
Yeah.
So I would like to see some genuine mid-card guys, like guys who are not former world champions, guys who could really use the rub, do this. Like Daniel Garcia had a good run with the TNT title, but now Adam Cole has it, and Cole is like in AEW, he's a main event star.
Yeah.
At any time they want to slot him into the world title picture, they can, and nobody will bat an eye.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, that TNT title, I know Cody had it a bunch of times, but when you look at really the lineage of it, like it's the Darby Allins, it's the Sammy Guevara's,
Orange Cassidy made that title feel important.
Yes. And it was those level of guys that we knew down the line they were going to be main event world championship caliber guys, but at the time that title, they made the title while making themselves. And
And also, Cody having that title was a result of him doing the whole "I'm never going to be in the world title picture" storyline. Which, like, why are you doing that to yourself?
Yeah, that was. I think that was truly one of the decisions that ultimately led to him leaving. Was whoever they made that decision, and it was like that is not the right thing to do. Like, are we not supposed to want?
I think that might have genuinely been his idea.
He admits that it was. He said it was, and he says that it was a stupid idea in hindsight now. He's very open, or at least when he's been asked, he's been open about how that was a dumb decision that I made, thinking that. But it was like, I don't know how anybody could have thought,
because they wanted
that we wouldn't want to root for him winning a world title in that company.
They wanted to prove that Cody didn't go create a company just to make himself as the champion, because that's what a lot of people felt Jeff Jarrett did with TNA.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
And so now that Cody is back in WWE and one of their top stars, like, obviously what he did worked for him. But it was a very weird booking decision for AEW to do.
It was. All right, we are then at our main event of the evening. It was Samoa Joe going one-on-one with Claudio Castagnoli of the Death Riders. Obviously Claudio trying to soften up Joe a little bit, as next week at Beach Break we have a massive steel cage match between Jon Moxley and Samoa Joe for the AEW World Title. This felt like an old Ring of Honor match to me, Doc.
Which basically it was.
Yeah. This definitely was obviously those two guys, but that's what it was. Just collar and elbow tie up, lockups, physical reversals, submissions, just beating the crap out of each other. This was a good style match for these two. You could tell it's a match that they've wrestled thousands of times, it feels like, against each other. This was a really, really good match. As we get towards the end of the match, Samoa Joe hits one of my favorite moves in wrestling is a snap power slam. I love it. And Samoa Joe hits a beauty against Claudio in this one. They're going back and forth with each other. And then at the end of the match, Samoa Joe locks in the Coquina clutch and Claudio taps. He tapped rather quickly for me.
Even the announcers called that out.
Yeah, I would have liked him to, maybe listen, I'm not going to sit here and pretend I've never been put in a chokehold. It's one of those things where you see at UFC, they fucking tap immediately, sometimes again as well, because,
it does come down to, in UFC and in martial arts and all that I do have 2 black belts. I can speak on this.
Yeah.
When you're fucked.
Yeah.
And that is why those guys tap immediately, because they don't want to risk the rest of their career for 30 seconds of pride.
Yeah. And
so Claudio being like, oh my God, Samoa Joe has me in the Coquina clutch. I need to tap out or I'm not making it out of this arena on my feet.
Yeah.
That's the best explanation. Like, they don't have to have him justify tapping out quickly, but it was a strange thing to me. Like, you would expect Claudio to just like not give up and get
or pass out, do the pass out gimmick, like that type of thing.
But like, it's the smart call to tap out. To Samoa Joe choking you out, that's the call.
Yeah, it's fair. It's fair. And that's the reason why, like, again, it felt quick in the moment. But like I said, I'm not the biggest mixed martial arts guy, but I've watched a plenty of mixed martial arts. And a lot of times when dudes are put in, or, whoever are put in submissions, they're tapping immediately because they're like, if I don't, my leg's going to break in half. Or if I don't, I'm going to literally get choked out and have to go to the hospital.
That is one of the things that pro wrestling has made a lot of fans think, is that like you can survive and even come back from being locked in some of these things. Like, no, if somebody gets you in an arm bar and they get it,
snap your arm in half. Yeah,
you're not going anywhere.
No, your arm is going to be broken if you don't, give in to what's happening, so that part of it, and like you said, I think that's just the history of wrestling. We've had the reaching for the ropes and, the guy fighting for a minute and then he passes out and doesn't tap out. It's like, in real life, if somebody puts you in a Coquina clutch, it ain't going to take a minute for you to pass out, bro. It ain't going to take a minute.
Yeah.
So it's kind of that blurred lines of like what real sports entertainment wrestling is as opposed to real life. So that's whenever, and I thought like at WrestleMania with Jey Uso, I thought Gunther tapped out too quick. Right. But in my mind, I always kind of bring it to that. Well, if this was a real life fight in a real life scenario or a mixed martial art fight, if Gunther doesn't tap out that early, he's going to the fucking hospital.
It was weird to me that Gunther tapped out that quickly.
Exactly.
Like at least with AEW, the excuse for Claudio tapping out quick could have just been that they were constrained for time.
Yeah, it's fair.
But like, yeah, Gunther tapping that quick is still kind of weird. And like, now that he's on his little like mood swing storyline, I guess they can always imply that him choosing to tap out quickly is just something he regrets, and that's why he's so mad.
Yeah, you could. But there was some post-match stuff that happened after this. The Death Riders make their way through the crowd, and Samoa Joe is ready for him. He's not going to, he knows they're coming. He's not going to get beaten from behind like we've seen the last couple weeks. And Will Hobbs, Powerhouse Hobbs, another third of the Trios Championships, he comes from the back and he's got a chair. And Moxley kind of holds back Wheeler and Marina, and they kind of stay on the other side in the audience with the crowd. And they kind of sacrifice Claudio here. Hobbs ends up hitting Claudio a couple times with the steel chair, and he's yelling at Moxley like, hey, watch this. And he hits Claudio a few times. They set up the chair, and Samoa Joe kind of gives Claudio some payback. He gives him a gourd buster, and Claudio's midsection goes over the sharp part of the chair, which I think is a good callback because we've seen the last couple weeks Claudio hit the neutralizer to both Hook and Shibata on the opposite side of the chair in those gnarly looking spots. So this was a little bit of revenge. And this was all Samoa Joe trying to like goat Moxley to get into the ring so he could get one up on Moxley. But Moxley was like, no, I'm not falling for that. But I will ask, do we think that this could lead to some problems in the Death Riders maybe? Because they definitely could have helped Claudio here. And if I was Claudio, I might not be too happy about my pals just kind of leaving me high and dry to get my shit kicked in.
I mean, they've teased Wheeler Yuta issues on and off the whole time.
Yeah.
So giving Claudio a potential reason to doubt Moxley, yeah, I mean, it could lead to just an eventual complete breakup of the faction.
Yeah, I thought that was, because whenever, so far in the Death Riders, whenever somebody's gotten the short end of the stick, it's always been Wheeler Yuta.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like Wheeler Yuta's been the guy that gets his ass kicked or gets trapped behind, and they just, let Wheeler take it.
And even they push Yuta around.
Exactly. Like they bully him around and stuff like that. So the fact that it was Claudio, which I look at this group and I think Marina is kind of the 1A to Moxley. He's the guy. She's the one that he kind of looks to the most, but Claudio is his right-hand man, in this group. So them sacrificing him and Moxley being like, nope, we're not going to go in there. Let Claudio take this one and we'll regroup and figure it out. I wonder if maybe that could lead to kind of Claudio starting to question things a little bit more of what's going on. Cause that's really the first time we've seen, in my opinion, we've seen Claudio lose too many matches and kind of become, we were just talking about mid-card titles. You want an upper mid-card guy to run through the company with one of those titles, put the shit on Claudio. Claudio is a guy to me that you want to give him the fucking TNT title, like him versus Adam Cole. I'm all for that. Give me that right now. I'll take a feud with Claudio and Adam Cole. So again, but again, I thought it was a good main event. It like we said, it basically was an old school Ring of Honor match that you would have seen from these guys back in the height of ROH. But I thought it was good, and we have this massive beach break happening, and Ophelia said it earlier, happening in the city that is known for their beaches, Chicago, Illinois. Happening next week. We have obviously steel cage.
Watch out for needles. When you
I know, yeah, literally. We have massive steel cage match for the world title with Samoa Joe and John Moxley. We have a big tag match with Takeshita and Josh Alexander against Ospreay and Hangman. We're going to find out the Bobby Lashley MJF. Are they going to finally let him in to the Hurt Syndicate? Plus, we have other major things that are going to be happening on that show. They're really making this basically a pay-per-view on the way to the pay-per-view. And I'm all for it. It's going to be a big show. It should be another fun one. But I thought last night's Dynamite was another good one, Doc. I thought they've been on a little bit of a run here this last month with some really, really solid television. And that includes Collision as well, which how dare they counter program between two beards tonight? How dare you? But Collision has also been one hell of a show here these last few months too. I think AEW, it's getting to the point where I feel like I don't have to say it every week, even though I have been saying it every week, but I've been really, it feels like they're kind of falling back into kind of what got them where they were to begin with, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I will say that there does seem to be a little bit of a correlation with the fewer minutes of TV that are taken up by Chris Jericho, the better.
Just saying.
Know? And keeping Big Bill and Brian Keith together is fine. Yep. Neither one of them were going to do much on their own anyway, so keeping them as a tag team for now is great.
Yeah.
But yeah, not having TV time with Chris Jericho every week has not been a loss for me.
No, it has not. Here's my thing. I am not as anti-Jericho as a lot of people are. However, I don't think Jericho should be in the year of our Lord 2025 and every week. No. Jericho should be at this point a special attraction. And he cannot be a special attraction if he's taking up a half hour of your show every single week in 2025.
And he also, I don't know, it just feels like he's been trying to find something for a long time. He was known as the master of reinvention. Chris Jericho has remade his character so many times. He's been Lionheart. He had the serious gimmick with the short hair, and then he did the list and all this stuff, and
the Painmaker and all these things, and
which that was always I hated that. I thought that makeup was stupid. I thought, the little fedora. Ugh. But anyway, he's been trying, and the learning tree thing just felt like a tired pun that didn't get over. And frankly, he got lucky with Big Bill and Brian Keith. They're not benefiting because of him, frankly. He benefited because of them.
Yep.
Because Big Bill has been enthusiastically throwing himself into every promo and every match. Brian Keith made all that. You better respect Chris Jericho. He's genuinely funny. And so I do think that in a way they have benefited from this. But it's because they made it work, not because Jericho's star power rubbed off on them.
I agree. And I feel like, that's really, and then in the long run, and I didn't think that Chris Jericho would be the subject that we're going to end the show on.
Sorry, I don't know where that came from.
No, it's all right. In the long run, to me, that's what Jericho should be doing. I have no problem with Jericho being in groups or whatever with these younger guys, but the problem has been that Jericho has always been the center of the group, where I feel like at least the last couple groups that he's been a part of, it should be kind of how you just explained it. Big Bill and Brian Keith should be the center of the group that are really getting over, which we're seeing, and Jericho is not. And I just feel like they still go about it that Jericho is the star of the group. And yes, in the history of wrestling, he is the biggest name in the group. He's one of the best or better ones to have ever done it. You can't debate that, regardless of your personal feelings about him. But at the same time, the problem was, and the reason why we all get sick of Jericho is because these guys should be getting over because of Chris Jericho. He should be helping them get over. And really the only ones that have really gotten over in all these groups since AEW started has been Jericho. And that's really where the problem has come. You know?
I will argue that Daniel Garcia,
and you could argue Sammy Guevara as well. Obviously things happened after that where he was kind of his own worst enemy for a little bit, I feel like. But I feel like Guevara early on in the inner circle, and I feel like Daniel Garcia, correct. I do feel like those, and Orange Cat, they weren't a group, but he did a lot for Orange Cassidy too, Jericho, when they were feuding. So he had, he's done good stuff. He needed to be their first world champion. He needed to give them that credibility. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say that Jericho has been not a good thing for AEW, because he has been. I just feel like the last 2 years or so, you got to change the formula when it comes to him.
I think what rubbed a lot of people the wrong way was like he had this long ROH world title reign and never really did anything on ROH.
Yeah, 2 of them, 2 separate ones, really.
And it feels like that's been the case with a lot of Ring of Honor champions.
Yeah, they're just on AEW. They're not even on Ring of Honor. They are AEW wrestlers holding Ring of Honor belts. Even now.
Yeah, they'll show up for the Super Card of Honor and Death Before Dishonor, but like
even now, like Nick Wayne.
He just took another ROH title off television.
Exactly. I was going to say, like, Nick Wayne is exactly the type of guy that you want to be on Ring of Honor week after week after week. And guess what? He has been on Ring of Honor occasionally, but he won the Ring of Honor singles title on an AEW show. Mm-hmm. He's defended it twice on AEW television. Like, and now he's going away in Japan for a month. And don't get me wrong, he's probably going to do very well in the Super Juniors. Might even win the damn thing. But he's going to have a great run in Japan, but it's like all these big matches that he's having as the Ring of Honor TV champion in the month that he's had it have not been on Ring of Honor.
Yep.
And it's like, okay, like, do you want me to care about Ring of Honor or not? Because why do I have to care about Ring of Honor when I can just watch their main storylines or their main champions besides Athena, I can just watch them on Dynamite or Collision every week.
I'm at least assuming that Bandito will be putting in more time in ROH.
I would hope. I would hope. But yeah, I mean, it is. And again, I'm not coming at it from an angle of like a diehard Ring of Honor person. Like, I don't buy Honor Club. I don't watch Ring of Honor regularly. If they had a TV show, I definitely would. But I don't purchase Ring of Honor Club. I don't watch it regularly. I keep in tune with it. I keep up with it. But from the people in my wrestling life, my friends, you know, people that are super into Ring of Honor at one time or still are, it's been a disappointing few years. It's been a disappointing few years, to say the least. So,
I mean, it's literally been Athena carrying the brand.
Yeah.
And whenever she pops in on AEW, she gets great reactions. She does great work.
Yep.
I just wish that her record-breaking monumental title reign was getting more attention than it is.
I agree. But that will put a pin in it for this week. Doc, want to thank you. I know you were going to be, like we said at the beginning, joining us anyway this week, but I want to thank you for kind of stepping up and moving up to the co-host role with me as Drew is hopefully resting and feeling better. So appreciate you joining us always here. Let the people know what you got coming up the rest of the week, where they can find you, and then I'll do my thing and we'll get out of here.
All my work is on Bleacher Report. I will be covering Collision tonight, SmackDown tomorrow, Backlash this weekend. So it'll be a busy few days, but it should be fun. We should get some fun wrestling out of it.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
You can follow me on Twitter, where I don't really do much anymore, at BR_Doctor. I'm a little more active over on Blue Sky at Doc Chris Mueller. So, yeah, and occasionally I'll pop up on somebody else's show like this.
Yeah, I like it. Y'all can follow me, JPJ Loves Gaming, on all social media platforms: Twitter, Facebook, Blue Sky, Instagram, Twitch. I play some video games. Not the last couple weeks. I got a new shoot job, and I'm in training mode, so I've been running ragged. So I haven't been streaming as much as I would like to, but we'll get back after it within the next couple weeks. You can find me here right on this channel in just about 8.5 hours or so, 8 p.m. Eastern time. between two beards, my main squeeze, Pluggo, and I, the flagship here at Love Wrestling.
So is it basically going to be like a Collision watch along then?
Well, they went live a couple weeks ago when they were in Boston. So basically, it's not really like a watch along, but yes, we give in the moment live updates of what's happening with Collision as they are counter programming us because they're scared. AEW, you're scared, so you're counter programming us. But we have a big show tonight. We have Mini.
Scared of you?
Yeah, that's why they're counter programming
Okay.
us. That's why they're counter programming us to like.
It's not to move away from the WWE.
No. No, they're like, we got to slow down these Beards characters. We hear they have a hold on Thursday nights, and that's what they're doing. But we have Mini Portable, joining us tonight. She's going to be doing. We're very excited to have her. We're going to be talking Backlash with her for the first 45 minutes to an hour of the show. I got some some professional sports takes that I need to get off my chest because my Boston teams are pissing me off. So I have. Still not worried. Celtics in 6. But I'm not worried at all. Not worried at all. But they are pissing me off. So I'm probably going to go off after the 10-minute mark because it might be profanity laden. I'm not sure.
As somebody who hasn't paid attention to any major sports in a long time,
yeah,
it's always very funny to me because it seems like everyone is always pissed off at their own city.
Yep, 100%.
Or something.
100%. Yep. And so I have some things to say about that. But Backlash, more AEW. You know how we roll on Beards. We kind of do whatever we want. So that'll happen tonight. Over on my friends, bodyslam.net, Mondays after Raw, me and Corey Hayes, we do Raw Dogs, the post show there. And then me and my pal Jose on the air Wednesday nights after AEW Dynamite. We do Dynamite up over on bodyslam.net. So that's where you can find my work over there. You can find all my stuff here on Thursdays here at Love Wrestling and just follow me everywhere. Doc, again, thank you for stepping up and joining us today. Appreciate you greatly. Everybody in the chat, thank you for joining us today. Chat was on fire today. We appreciate every single one of you. And until next time, y'all know the drill. Have yourselves a wonderful weekend. Enjoy all the wrestling. And until next Thursday, peace out.